Well, good morning, everybody. We're here with a brand new live episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, who is currently putting eye drops in our dog. That's always a good sign. And so get your eyes wide open. Oh, God, that looks horrible. Because I showed the people at home this. It's kind of like that.
It looks like you're wearing a flesh mask.
That moment from I Love Lucy where she makes the... She looks like another
Hannibal Lecter
Lhasa Apso.
when they make the flesh mask out of people.
Yeah, actually, I could use a flesh mask. I think that would be a
felch mask, honey.
That's my wife saying that, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I say? I say we have to get our iTunes going so that we can properly start the Dave's Gone By show. And it goes a little something like this.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. There goes the Daverhood.
And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island Hearts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome on this Saturday morning, February 16th, 2019, to the 2000, no, what am I saying even? Oh, he lost his, okay, yeah, we gotta do this, this is important. To the, what number is it? 685th episode of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling, adorable wife, Joyce. Now they can't even see your hand from there. Oh.
Tell them that's before your show.
Now this is my life. This is everybody's life all week up until I get to do this program on Saturday mornings from about 9 until 11:30 or so. This is me. Sad, sad brown bear. Right? Behold. We're doing a transformation here. This is important. And as I'm doing this show, after I'm doing this program, happy brown weird bear. Now the thing, what's the matter?
Does he have a hood?
He has a clitoral hood,
Look
actually.
on the back.
No, yes. Oh, I guess it's a hoodie. It's sort of supposed to,
yeah.
This thing. Now let me explain this, as if this could be explained. And by the way, welcome to Tony, and welcome to Martha, and welcome to Rick, and to Mikkel. Hello, all of you, and all the other folks who are listening and watching to our 685th broadcast of this show, which is going to be a really great one, I promise you. But this has joined our family. It does not supersede, it does not take the place of potatoes. But this, especially because he was a found item. I was walking on a post-rainy day in Manhattan, back from the theater a couple of nights ago. And just walking along, and I see face down this. And I'm like, what? And being me, any other normal human being, especially a 55-year-old human being, would see like a plush toy on a rainy street and go, I'm not touching that. But no, that's not me, ladies and gentlemen. Me, I'm like, what is that? And it turns out to be a plush bear. I pick it up, and I guess it's, as my wife said, it's probably from Brown University. Either that or it's describing the contents of his underwear. But no, but what's kind of cool is back.
He is brown. Maybe it's
he's a brown. He's not a panda bear. He's a brown bear. So I, knowing nothing of this, pick him up. I bring him home. I'm like, yay! But the problem is they make him for some reason like this. It's like he's sad. He's like sad Ted in the Ted movie, right? I'm like, who wants to see this all the time? Why would you bring the kid?
Maybe that's why somebody chucked it out of the carriage.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe that's why some kids say, I don't want to look at this all day. I'm depressed.
Yeah, I know.
And we bring home this sad brown bear. I'm like, what? Who would make this? So Joyce brilliantly devises a fix, if we can see that.
Yes. You can also do it upside down or smirking. You could.
Well, from upside down is still a frown.
But you could do like sideways.
Well, let's do a sideways smirk. He's a smirky bear. Let's try this. See?
Oh,
Isn't that cute?
Oh, well, that's even cute.
That's really cute.
That's like contemplative bear.
Sideways comedy bear. Now,
I like that.
the weird part, the really screwed up part about all this, and I haven't told Joyce this yet, is that I was coming home from the theater a couple of nights ago again. Right, a different show, obviously.
Yeah.
I didn't go see the same show. And was walking along down, it was either 7th Avenue or Broadway.
Yeah.
I wasn't coming down 8th. I was coming down 7th Avenue or Broadway. And let me get this up. That's what he said. And this is what happened. I pass a store
that's sold
between
down
34th and this is in the window.
Oh,
it's a thing. There's millions of these things.
Oh, he's cute. Maybe it's a
I'll show you guys the picture on my phone.
I'm sorry, I made it big so people could.
Yeah,
see.
yeah. No,
he's wearing a pig outfit. The other one's wearing a pig.
Yeah, a couple are dressed as pig. This is now.
Maybe it's not for Brown University. Maybe it's some kind of like Hello Kitty.
I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I remember Hello Kitty.
It might be like that.
In fact, they've got one or two in there dressed as Hello Kitty. They're bears playing. I only took 2 pictures. Let me see if I took. I had one other. So that's cute too. See?
Oh. Now where is that? Maybe we could get him an outfit. Let me see.
This is right in Midtown. It's somewhere between 35th Street and maybe 48th Street, 47th Street.
The bunnies are happy.
Yeah, but the bears are sad. They do happy bunnies.
You should look up like, I'm going to Google.
You do that.
Maybe it's like.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Who knew? I thought this was this one-off toy.
Chinese bear toy. Cute. Frowning.
How do we know it's Chinese? Well, of course it's Chinese. What else could it be? But anyway, so we incorporated a sad bear.
You got to go on the Wi-Fi. You're not on the Wi-Fi. We killed our minutes.
I know. Into our family. We incorporated this bear, not knowing that he has, we've probably taken him from this huge extended family that he has. Bears from other universities.
No.
What no?
We're not collecting bears.
Oh, hell no. We're not getting more of those.
No, that's the way potatoes began.
But this is the one, see, we have another bear, and he's a tiny one, not of this make. He doesn't look like him, that we got many, many years ago, that I assume was meant for children to teach them about potty training because he's naked except for underpants. And we call him Underpants Bear.
No, he has on a purple shirt.
Oh, he did?
He has on a purple shirt and a diaper.
Oh. Well, he's still Underpants Bear to me. And I call him Overpants Bear because he doesn't actually have pants, as you can see, but he's got this with a hoodie, a pointless hoodie since it doesn't actually go over his head. Children, there's a reason children are so messed up today.
Yeah.
There's a reason that by the time we get them in university, they're hopeless. And it's this. It's toys like this, but at least it's not interactive. At least it doesn't light up and flash and play video games.
It's probably a type of bear.
Well, I assume it's a brown bear as opposed to a Lehigh bear or an NYU bear. I haven't got an NYU bear.
Is there any tag on him?
There's no tags. They pulled off any possible identifier. Oh, wait a minute. It's on his shirt. Look at this. He's got that. This is exciting, folks. This is why you watch this kind of television. Anyway, welcome to Jessica and Eileen.
It's on his tushy.
And Frank and Warhol and Eric. Boy, haven't we had enough things on our tushies this week?
No, please.
I don't know. I'm not going to get into some family issues that we're having here, but it's been a hell of a week in the Daverhood, let me tell you. How we doing?
Distributor is called Line Friends.
Okay, Line Friends.
This is made in China.
Oh, it's made in China.
Maybe a Line Friends Corp bear?
Well, there he is. He's a corporate bear. Yeah. And the irony is...
Tail. Show him his tail.
Yeah, it's cute.
That's cute.
The irony is that we come from a university in Colorado where the mascot is a bear. We have a giant bear in front of our student center. All our teams are called the Bears. And so we should have a UNC bear.
Maybe he was going to the village to get the bigger bear.
Maybe they're going to print UNC bears and they ran out of money in the budget to do it.
I'm saying maybe it should be the other type of bear. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, yeah. No, I didn't find him by Christopher Street.
He wasn't like an S&M?
No. He's, well, you know, he does have this. So he's got this little thing where he can be suspended, perhaps from a sex hammock. Don't even know. I go, okay, I'm not even going to go there. How are you, dear?
Good.
What a messed up week this has been, huh?
Well, yeah.
I mean, between our sort of mutual jobs, which are safe for the moment.
Do you read Chinese?
Oh, let me see. Ni hao ma.
No,
I don't read Chinese, no.
Oh, Lying Brown Bear. Let's see.
Lying Brown Bear. We're going to find out about this.
I don't think it's a game.
Oh. There's a Lying Brown Bear game. Anyway, let me tell... What? There he is! Oh my God, look at him. He doesn't have a shirt, though.
Line is the company. Let me investigate.
No, let me show the people.
He's got all kind of costumes, too, David.
Oh, here we go. Now, we're not going to get more costumes for our bear.
Look, you can get... The best rated one is him wearing an alligator, and the lowest price one is him wearing some kind of shirt.
Let's get the lowest price.
$92.
$92? Well, that's a giant one. They're big.
Oh, we don't want to.
Yeah, we don't need a $92.
Can I get lowest price? I'm going to get best selling.
Yeah. Best selling is...
Oh.
Yeah, they are kind of cute.
Jungle Brown Dino Plush or New York Brown Sitting Plush?
Well, this is probably a New York. Oh, no, he's a brown bear.
Well,
but yeah. He's very cute. Look at that. Okay.
Look. I guess it's like what were those little bean bags? Beanie Babies? I think he's like a Beanie Baby thing, right?
He's the latest thing. This is probably what you get the kid now. And you can collect them and so forth, which we're not going to, I promise. No. Believe me. Potatoes always. I don't want Potato to get jealous.
I'll take your phone.
Because I do collect these.
Yeah, because that's so much different.
If any of you at home happen to have one of these from about 20 years ago, give them to your kid. The Spud's potatoes.
One of them dressed as a fox.
I'll spend untold amounts of money. No, I won't. But I will want to spend.
He's a squirrel with an acorn. Look.
Oh, let me see.
That one's super cute.
Oh, squirrel and acorn would drive me nuts. I'll tell you. Here we go. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Anywho, so we added, this was probably one of the only good things that happened in this miserable fucking week.
Dressed as a bunny.
Okay,
cool.
They
also have that, he's sad, but the one they have a bunny dressed as a bear, but the bunny's happy.
The bunny's dressed as a bear.
Happy.
Maybe this is a Silence of the Lambs thing. The bunny skinned the bear and is now wearing his face.
But he's happy.
I don't know, I guess.
I like that. That's cute.
I don't know. This is sick to me. And he has a ducky bag. Did you see that?
I didn't see the
He's
bag.
Wearing the skin of a duck.
Let me see the ducky bag. Oh, that's cute. It's like a fanny pack.
Yeah, no, the bunny murdered 2 animals to wear this costume.
He's happy.
Well, he's happy. That's true.
Yeah, he's a happy bunny.
This is Dave's Gone By, just to reiterate what we're doing here on the show. But this is just the beginning. This is not really what we're doing on the program. What we're doing here is a lot of cool stuff today. We're going to have Greeley Crimes and Old Times. We're going to have a story time, including, oh yes, kids. You know, I know I used the F word before, and I will again. But when you want to bring your kids around the radio and your computer, you're going to want to have them for Dave Tells the Story of Home Health Emergencies.
Can I pick one?
Yeah, why don't you pick a home health emergency?
Okay, let me put on my glasses.
That doesn't hopefully have to do.
I'll try to pick something I don't know.
Yeah. Ooh. If you don't know it, it's probably not in home health emergencies, because then that's not a home emergency. All right. Oh, she's doing random. What do we got here?
These are all things we know. Wait, hold on.
Okay, do another. Here we go. Bee, wasp, and hornet stings.
And actually, I didn't think about it, but it goes well with your story from last week about the bee.
That's right, me and the bee. We did that.
If that bee went psycho and bit on somebody.
True. So be here for story time, home health emergencies, because I think we all remember when our moms and dads, when we were 2, 3, or 4 years old, in the crib, and our parents would sit and read to us from this charming book from the medical department of the Equitable Life Assurance Society of the United States. So yeah, that's gonna be sweet, fun memories, I think, for all of us. And we'll have a Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where we go to a very local place to us, Evans, Colorado. Evan,
Oh, that's Evan. I thought you were talking about Evan. Okay.
no, Evans, Colorado. That is really next to Greeley,
Very
where we're
close.
from.
Yeah,
It's,
some people say there's not much of a difference.
yeah, they divided up Evans.
Can I borrow your phone? I need to look up something
Sure.
about protein.
Yeah, perhaps, absolutely.
Thank you. Is that your remix?
So we'll have a poem.
What are you
about-
gonna?
what?
Oh.
What dear? Yeah. We'll have a poem about Evans, Colorado, a limerick, a short little poem that I put together because we've been doing them all about these different places in Colorado. What else? Oh, we will have a Saturday segue.
You know what this is called? It's like potato friend. They call it friends. They call it line friends.
Line friends, and that's the kind that makes those bears. But the most important thing was, we got I'm not sure, I guess we got a thumbs up about Evans.
Oh, they call him Brown, Choco, and Coney.
What?
That's his name.
Brown, Choco, and Coney?
I think.
We're gonna have to change your name, Bear, because we're not from China. What?
I don't know if that's his name.
Or as our president would say, China. But the most important part of our
these are so cute.
show today is an interview that we have, and since the new year, I think we've had one interview, and that was with our old friend Jeff Goodman, who was in fact a co-host of the show for about 2 or 3 years when we were back on that very. Oh, honey.
Nude, he's nude.
Listen, no, look at the position he's in.
He's in.
Joyce found this picture of the bear.
No, that's a different bear.
And sure, oh no, look at that. That's the bear that goes to Greenwich Village. I think they call that brown bottom bear, if you know what I'm saying.
That's the picture they take of all the babies. They put them naked.
Yeah, well, yeah. This is him doing bareback, if you know what I'm intimating. Okay. Anywho, enough with the bear. So important. Our guest today, we haven't had quote unquote a celebrity guest in a while. I'm very thrilled to say that we have a major musician on the program on Dave's Gone By this Saturday, February 16th, talking to Rabbi Saul Solomon. He is a veteran bass player. And when you think about jazz and even not so much classical, but jazz and pop and nightlife and cabaret bass players, not a lot of names come to mind.
Who is it?
One does. And his name is Jay Leonhart. He's been a New York nightlife staple for about 40 years now. And check this out. I took down the information. Jay Leonhart has played with the likes of, and it's not, when I say the likes of, it doesn't mean these are people like them. These are the actual people.
Then he played with them.
Buddy Rich, Peggy Lee,
Whoa.
Mel Torme.
Mel Torme.
Mel Torme.
You know you've made it when you play with the Mel Man.
Well, I've actually played with Larry Bud Melman, which was a beautiful thing. Dick Hyman, who was actually a guest on this program about half a year ago.
Oh, wow.
Duke Ellington.
Oh, my God.
And Judy Garland. Jay Leonhart is almost 80 years old.
That's incredible.
So he has played in the orchestras and the bands with these folks. Okay. Now he is an upright bass player. You don't get a lot of those. Upright bass player. He also is a multi-instrumentalist, but that's what he ended up concentrating on. And he's doing a bunch of things. He's always doing a bunch of concerts and things in New York. As a matter of fact, you can see him this Tuesday at a place called Mesro on 10th Street in New York. I've never heard of that one. But he's at Birdland next Saturday, so go see him there. He's going to be doing a thing with Ari Melber, if you know him from, I think, MSNBC. On March 13th. I mean, if you look up Jay Leonhart's website, you're going to see all the different things that Jay Leonhart is doing. But what he's doing this morning is calling in to the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream to talk about his life, to talk about his career, his music, and to talk to the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Saul Solomon. So our special guest, Jay Leonhart, in the Daverhood today.
Awesome.
It really is. It really is. I'm very thrilled.
You must have a lot of stories to tell. I would think that.
I hope so.
I would think that, when you spend that much time I think actually when you survive that much time in the arts, would you say as a cabaret performer? How would you describe it?
Both jazz and cabaret.
So jazz and cabaret. If you survive that long and you work with that many people, you must be doing something right. Because when you get vetted out so quickly. Yeah. No, he's the man. Yeah. He was between 1975 and 1995, he was named most valuable bassist in the recording industry 3 times by NARAS, the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. Whoa. So yeah, we're calling this episode. He's a bass player. It's so cool. Yeah, well, that's why we're calling this episode Ace of Bass. Get it? Because he's the ace of bass. But that band was kind of racist. All that she wants is another baby. I think they were like a little Aryan or something. It was a problem.
Well, didn't they come from Sweden where they're all white?
There was a problem with them, I think, yeah.
Well, Jay Leonhart has nothing to do with actual Ace of Base. We're just calling... It is troubling to me. It's troubling to me, too. By the way, welcome to Warhol, Ye, and Eric, and Lawrence, and Michael, and all the folks who are tuning in for Jay Leonhart, Rabbi Saul, me, and all the stuff we're doing on the show. And, of course, we have our Inside Broadway segment. We've got Greeley Crimes and Old Times. So much fun to have. So, and also I need to bid... to do a bit of a sad farewell to someone that I've been listening to for a bunch of years. So, yeah, we'll be talking about that, too.
Who's that?
But I don't know. I think I'm going to get to Greeley Crimes because Jay is calling in about 10.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let's do that, and then hopefully with some extra time, either before or after, I'll be talking about that, too. So are you ready for Greeley Crimes and Old Times? Oh, what then?
So when Jay calls in, do you think the interview will be an hour?
I think it'd be about, I can't guess, but these things generally run about half an hour to 45 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, we have a segment called Greeley Crimes and Old Times that has to do with stories that come into the paper where we've been from for the past 10 years. Greeley, Colorado. The paper is called the Greeley Tribune. Da-da-da. There she blows. And it's... I don't know why I always need to do that, but I need to prove that these are real because there are 2 columns weekly in the Greeley Tribune. One has to do with phone calls that come into the police dispatch from people who need help for various reasons, and the other, a friend of ours, Mike Peters, who's been on the program, he goes in and looks at news stories from 100 years ago in what was the newspaper back then in town, and picks out the funniest, weirdest, most nostalgic pieces. And that is why we call this segment Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Hold on, just one more. Yes. Well, she's on the phone now, so when she gets off, you can talk to her. We just want to get a couple things straight here, but we are good. Are you ready for Greeley Crimes at all times, babe? Okay, and we're gonna let's see. We need. Where's the bell? We brought the bell. Here's the bell. Either this or we can use this because we just found the old bell. Or we can use the xylophone for regular noises and the bell for alerts. Because we're going to start, and how appropriate is this? It's appropriate every week, but specifically appropriate for this week and the fact that this happened on my birthday.
Okay.
Back on January 23rd in Greeley, Colorado. Hon, we have a poop alert. Oh no, there it is. Poop alert. Are you ready for a poop alert, babe? This was in the newspaper.
I've received a lot of those lately.
Police responded to 15th Street to speak with a property manager who had questions about laws regarding dog poop. Remember, they publish this in the newspaper, folks. This is something that you can read in the daily. This is what happened on my birthday a couple of weeks ago. The caller said it wasn't that people were complaining about dog poop in the neighborhood. It was that residents were allowing poop to pile up on their own lawns. So, would you call the police if your lawn was getting all doodly-dooed?
Of course.
Oh, okay.
Let me just go down.
Okay, go ahead.
Why don't you tell them other stuff?
I'll give people the sponsorship information about this program. Go ahead. Cool. Dave's gone by. We couldn't do this program without some kind, fine, cool, talented, and very helpful people. And those are the folks at Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway in Hewlett, New York, of course, not the actual Broadway in Manhattan. So we've got the information here. I'm sorry if we have to kind of be a little bit scattered this morning on the show, but there's some stuff going on, but can't really talk about. But Minuteman Press, the copy kings, they've been around, owned by the Toron family, this particular franchise, since the mid-1970s. And I've been using them since, wow, pretty much since then. They've been sponsors of this program since our very first episode back in 2002. And here is all the stuff they do. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do B for base, since Jay Leonhart is going to be on the program in a little bit. B for base. So Hewlett Minuteman Press does badges, bags, balloons, banners, binding, including collating and drilling and folding and padding and scoring and stapling. They do birth announcements. They do blind embossing, which is very, very difficult because if you're embossing things when you can't see, you have to be especially careful. Booklets, bookmarks, brochures, bulletins, bumper stickers, business announcements, business cards and card holders, business forms, and buttons. So those are all, that's just the letter B for Hewlett Minuteman Press. All the things that they can do to get the word out about your company or your product or service. And they're right in the heart of Hewlett, Long Island. They're about 2 blocks, well, 3 blocks from the Long Island Railroad Station. Tell me in just one moment. And they're also known for wedding announcements. You know what? It's time to even start thinking about Passover and Easter cards. They do those too. So check them out. They're at 11, where are they at? They're 1315 Broadway, across the street from the giant Petco. And you can reach them at 516-569-5577. 516-569-5577. And if you tell them Dave sent you, you get 10% off any job, big or small. Hewlett Minuteman Press, they are the copy kings. And what, yeah.
Use my speakerphone, don't use the phone.
Okay, I cannot do that because the person is calling in.
So when he calls in, just give him my number.
Yeah.
And call.
Okay,
So
cool.
when he calls, you can have him call me, and then you just do, when you get here,
Yeah,
I'll show you.
okay. Sorry, folks, we just
It's
need to deal with this.
technical. So let's say I'm gonna call you. I'm just showing you.
Yeah, just talk amongst yourselves.
And then when you get it, just hit speaker.
Okay, and then we'll put the speaker right here. Oh, that's loud enough. That's good. You hear that, folks? Well, we did. There. Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it.
Okay.
What a mess. Anyway, okay. By the way, welcome to Lawrence and Michael and Claudia and Charles. Just keep me posted if there's anything, any emergencies, you know, any murders, deaths, and so forth. We're doing Greeley Crimes and Old Times here in the Daverhood on Dave's Gone By. Let's get back to it. Unfortunately, Joyce has to, I'm the wicked son that isn't helping out downstairs because it's always a cluster. I'm doing this show. Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Police responded to an apartment complex on 11th Avenue because property managers were allegedly holding people hostage in the ceilings. I will repeat that. Property managers were allegedly holding people hostage in the ceilings. The caller was told it would be impossible to hold people hostage in the ceilings of an apartment building. So again, these are the kinds of phone calls that come into our local police department, not here on Long Island, but out in Greeley, where we've been from for a while. I'm going to save, we actually have a vintage chicken alert. I'm going to save that. We'll save that for next time, our vintage chicken alert. But I will tell you that 100 years ago, back in 1919, a 19-year-old Greeley boy was serving 10 days in the Adams County Jail for stealing a 35-cent box of cookies from a merchant. 10 days in jail for stealing cookies. The boy said he was starving and couldn't find work. And this is what the newspaper, the editorialist of that newspaper wrote back then. Well, at least for 10 days, he'll be getting 3 meals a day. Yeah. Just you know, the capacity for compassion of newspaper people back in 1919. Really, really nice stuff. Even though, I should add, the Great War has ended, food conservation continues, especially in Canada. The people now eat beaver meat, which they wouldn't touch before. No wonder they were so lonely. They're eating beaver meat. Also popular is whale meat, which was never recognized as food, but is now eaten in quantity. In 6 months, 3.5 million pounds of whale meat has been eaten. And so I guess all those people who are starving can stop crying and blubbering. So, well, Dave's Gone By kind of comedy there. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to another item in Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Police responded to an apartment building for a man who identified himself as the Messiah and said he wanted to kill people, quote, so the world would be reborn. The caller told police the man had a history of violence and was recently placed on probation for hitting someone in the head with a brick. These are the kinds of folks. See, this is not the kind of person who belongs in Greeley. This is the kind of person who belongs on a New York subway. I should be back in Greeley. This guy should be in Manhattan. But anywho, police also responded to 24th Street Road for a report of a suspicious person wearing a headlamp and walking up to houses on the block. Of course, it was a mailman. These are actually stories that came into the Greeley Tribune over the past couple of weeks from the Weld County Police Dispatch. Let's do a couple more, and then I can actually talk about Jonesy and X-ray burns, which I would really like to. Anyway, a man who was arrested for stabbing another Greeley man told police he was forced to stab the victim. He said 2 men grabbed him at night, blindfolded him, and gave him the knife. He was then told to start swinging the knife, and he couldn't see that he was stabbing anyone. The police, they do not believe his story. Gee, wonder why. And let's do one more. Let's do one more. The Kersey Commercial Club held its meeting on Tuesday. Again, this is 100 years ago, and let me be clear. Let me note something. The Kersey Commercial Club is Kersey with a K, commercial with a K, and club with the letter K. Think of the acronym. The Kersey Commercial Club held its meeting Tuesday, and a great meal was served by the women of the club. About 150 business people attended, and they were entertained by the grade school girls choir. It was a social meeting, and no business was conducted. I wonder if maybe 1 or 2 of them were in blackface and later became politicians. Just saying. Just wondering. Just saying. Anywho, and speaking of, the more things change, the more they remain the same. So we heard about the Greeley Commercial Club from 1919. Moving to 2019, police responded to 35th Avenue for a road rage incident. Nothing of significance occurred, but the caller decided, yeah.
Did it involve the motor car?
No, this is recent. This was, but it did involve an auto vehicle of some sort. Why do you think the caller chose to report this road rage incident where nothing happened?
Because it involved a sheep.
Actually, close.
Cow?
No, but who owns a sheep?
Farmer? Tractor? Tractor?
Not a tractor, but
plow?
No. No, think more in terms of. Well, I don't want to give it away.
SUV?
No, here's the deal. Even though nothing of significance occurred during this incident, which wasn't an incident, the caller decided to report it because the other driver appeared Middle Eastern. More things change, more remain the same. By the way, welcome to Michael and Claudia and Charles and Kelly and John. So I'm going to give you the choice. We can either continue with more Greeley Crimes or, and I'll talk about.
Do you want to talk about other stuff? Is that okay?
I'm wondering if I should do another segment, because I know at 10 o'clock we've got our guest calling.
Do you want to text him and give him my number?
I don't have his number. I don't have the ability to contact.
So you know my number.
Yes. Yes, I do. So I'll tell him to call that right back.
Yeah.
Which I'll have to do on the air and tell everybody your number.
Just
it's going to be a very strange thing. But anyway, why don't we do? I don't even know. Just trying to work things out here. Anyway, that was Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Hope you enjoyed it. Let's see. I'll get to Inside Broadway, and we'll do some Broadway stuff. And then if we have to stop in the middle, I'll do more Inside Broadway later. Because that's how we roll here on Dave's Gone By. We've got to be, what do you call it? We got to be flexible, if you will. Kind of like Brown Bear when he's in this position, if you know what I'm saying. And I think you do. So let us get to, since I've been a theater critic, a playwright, an actor, a theater journalist, I love the theater. I love talking about Broadway. And that's why I enjoy going Inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Well, yeah. Well, Inside Broadway we go on this February 16th, Saturday morning, here in New York. I'm so used to saying Greeley, Colorado, but no, we're out in Long Island, Eastern Time. We're here from 9 to 11, probably quite a bit later than that today, February 16th, 2019, for the 685th edition of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of The Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. So, time for Inside Broadway. Now, a lot of times on Inside Broadway, we mostly do news, theater news, big stories happening on Broadway. There wasn't a lot happening on Broadway this week for some strange reason. We got a lot of news in January, and then it's tailed off a bit as we head to mid-February. But that's okay, because since I'm in New York, I've been seeing a lot more theater, and I want to report to you back and review back some of the things that I've seen and let you know whether I think they're worth seeing. So let's start with an off-Broadway show I saw about a week and a half ago that's been running for a few weeks now, and of course I had the playbill. Here it is. I'm sorry. Here it is. It's a bio play. So in other words, it's a certain genre of play where they take the life story of someone and then reenact it on stage. Now, a lot of times you get a one-person show. Well, I just got a thumbs up for seeing theater, which is great, and being in New York. And by the way, thank you and welcome to Martha and Paula and John and Kelly and Charles and Claudia and Michael and all these people who are tuning in. I can't see all of you. If you want to send me messages, you can on Facebook, and if I can read them. If I see them, I don't always see everybody. But it's so great to get the thumbs up and the hearts and the poop emojis. Love those, of course. But talking about a show that I saw at the Darrell Roth Theater a couple of weeks ago called Gloria, which is not a one-person show. You know, a lot of these things, they get someone to come out there. Hal Holbrook will be Mark Twain, and Julie Harris will be Emily Dickinson. This is not this. This is, they've taken the story of important feminist Gloria Steinem, and although they do have a person playing her, they also have a chorus of people who play other characters and who act in some ways as a physical chorus. So of course, when there is a march or a protest, then they are part of that, then they hold signs, and they also play other characters. It's a lot of short scenes, but it makes it a lot more lively than some of these one person, and then I did this, and then I told Chief Justice Marshall that. This is a mix of that, but also short scenes and history. It can't help at some points feeling like a wiki page come to life. Because you do get, even though these stories have something of an arc, you do get this feeling, and then I did this, and then this happened. And then I went to work here, and then so that's unavoidable, and it can kind of get a little bit, okay, I can either watch this or quickly read the wiki page. But they made sure to make Gloria theatrical enough that you can't keep being interested. You keep generally being involved in it. Patricia Callenber is in the show now. When it opened a couple of months ago, Christine Lottie played the role of Gloria Steinem. And by the way, just a quick summation of the story that's told there is Gloria, born to parents who were a little bit different, a little bit unusual. Her father had trouble making money. He was selling antiques out of his car. Her mom was actually a journalist too. She didn't learn that until much later, but her mom started as a journalist and then subverted that, put all that under to marry her father. And then I think that built up in her to the point where she became mentally ill and couldn't take the poverty life that they were leading. And she was on medication for most of her life, which turned her into very often a basket case. But at her best, her mom was kind of cool. But in Gloria, and Gloria Steinem herself, I should say, she ended up going towards journalism, and she wanted to write stories and things. And of course, she was given the home ec stuff and the things that you would put in Vogue or McCall's and those kinds of pieces, until her breakthrough piece, and that's the beautiful irony of all this, was that she did a story about Playboy and the Playboy clubs and what it was to be a bunny. So they had her dress up as a bunny and take a job at the Playboy Club, which she lasted for a day. It was so miserable and demeaning and degrading to do it, but she wrote about it, and it made her name. Now, as she said in real life, and they say in the show, after that, the offers came piling in. A lot of them, well, if you were Playboy Bunny, how about a story about Screw magazine? How about a story about being a prostitute? It's like, no. She wanted to be taken seriously as a serious journalist, which eventually she was. And she would write about serious, important feminist issues, and she became a big voice on the pro-choice front, writing about that, even though when she wrote about it, she wasn't ready to tell her own story involving that. So anyway, we hear all this and we go through her life, and in fact, the most effective theatrical moment in Gloria, which is, by the way, directed by Diane Paulus, there's a wonderful sequence that has to do with the Playboy Club. And by the way, full disclosure, I used to work for Playboy magazine for about a year and a half. I was in their advertising department, and I was Miss October. But half of that is a joke, the other half wasn't. Gloria Steinem, when she did that story, and she recounts what it was to be a Playboy Club hostess. And you figure, that's not, this isn't Bill Cosby at the Grotto, right? This isn't somebody posing nude because they really desperately need the money and that they have to. No, it's a cocktail waitress job, a normal job. They just have to dress up in these very tight little costumes that show some cleavage with a little bunny tail in the ears. You figure, okay, fine, nothing terribly awful about that. So she explains how that was, and how you had to parade in front of the guy who was teaching these people how to be buddies, and how you had to hold the tray high and hold the tray this way and lean back and do this, and it's demeaning enough, and then he starts like keeping time, like singing La La La, a song as they're parading around him, and it really, your stomach starts to churn when Gloria is telling how they have to literally be meat on display for this boss of theirs working for the Playboy Club. And then the moment that absolutely kills you is that there's also projected footage. They have images and they have some video that is sometimes distracting and sometimes helpful, because they sometimes show things a little too fast for you to register all the historic imagery that they're projecting. But what they show while this scene is going on in real time, they're actually showing silently black and white footage of that exact scene being done in the 1950s of this man, or it might have been early 1960s, of this guy and these real Playboy cocktail bunny waitresses doing their paces while he's clapping, while he's singing. And you just, as someone who used to read Playboy magazine for various reasons and worked for Playboy, I wanted to throw up. It's really, it's a tremendously effective theatrical moment. Other parts are more prosaic. Other parts are, Emily Mann, who wrote the script for Gloria, A Life, is not the most effective storyteller a lot of the time. She has a great sense of anecdote, not so much in terms of arc or dramatization, but Diane Paulus really helps her in moments like that. My real complaint about Gloria, A Life is that the show runs a full 90 minutes. The last 10 minutes get a little kind of, because she ends up dealing a lot with Native Americans and their talking circle stuff and their ideas about that, and it's not so interesting. And thank goodness, by the way, Gloria Steinem is still alive and well, just so you know. It tends to be like that. Like the later years of someone's life, especially if they're still living, are a bit less interesting, a bit more amorphous. But problem is that you don't get a break, and they go right into talking circle right after it. So you've got a play that should be about 80 minutes is really 90. And then you're allowed, well, you're always allowed to leave and go to the bathroom or something, but really you're supposed to stay and then do another half hour of people talking and sharing their stories. And a lot of those were very good. And in fact, the night I attended, the guest was Letty Cotton Pogrebin. Nobody can pronounce that right. It's Letty Cotton Pogrebin, who helped co-found Ms. Magazine with Gloria Steinem. And she was telling memories of doing that, of her first desk at Ms. Magazine was literally a cardboard box that they cut out so she could have a place to put her legs under it. And she was remembering some other things about Gloria Steinem and about the early years of feminism and the marches, which was wonderful. People in the audience chimed in, including men who felt guilty about going to the Playboy Club. You had one young girl, probably, I think she was a high school girl, and she talked and talked and talked, but she said some really interesting things about trying to balance what it means to be a young woman in our very visual culture, a culture that demands that women have a certain weight, that they look a certain way, that they model themselves after Kardashians, and also trying to understand that they want to be respected for what they bring to the table mentally and creatively. So eventually she got that out after about 10 minutes of rambling. But, you know, that's the chance you take in a talking circle. And hey, I ramble here for 3 hours. So, but all in all, a thumbs up. I'm going to give almost 3.25 stars to Gloria, A Life at the Darrell Roth Theater downtown. It's over on East 15th Street. Just make sure you go to the bathroom beforehand, as I did. And, you know, you will, for everybody, male or female, will have different moments of this piece that will affect them, that will resonate with them. So for me, it was the Playboy thing and some other items about protesting or just what it meant to be a woman back in the day and try and get taken seriously as a journalist, etc. and so forth. And especially all journalists have something to learn from this when now we're all scrambling to try and get journalism jobs of our own. But Gloria, A Life at the Darrell Roth Theater. By the way, my life is taken up with theater and creativity, most of it. God knows not all of it, or I'd be a much happier person. But I am happy to always remind you that this segment is brought to you in part by Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway, since the since 1944. 1944. This was founded as a way for people in the entertainment industry to know, what's happening on the stages of New York. It is a comprehensive guide. There we go. To every show on, off, and off Broadway. Want me to prove it? Of course I will. For example, here's a guide to the Broadway season on one page. Every single show that is running from previous seasons, opening this season, and coming in the next season. Boom, right on one page. Next page, every theater in New York, every Broadway theater, whether it's Drew Jamson, Niederlander, Schubert, or other, how many seats it has, what show is in there, and how long it's running. Okay, that's on another page. On another page, every press agent handling all the shows. So, for example, if you were interested in learning about Ain't Too Proud, or Beautiful the Carole King musical, or Dear Evan Hansen, or the upcoming show Hadestown, or Halftime, or Hillary and Clinton, and Kinky Boots, that is handled all by one agency, DKC O&M. How do you contact them to find out more, or to contact the people on these shows? Here's that information. Okay, now we get to the meat of the magazine. That's the third time I've used meat, I think, on the program. Day by day, Broadway, every show currently running, when the shows are starting, previews, opening, and closing. Thank you. Someone just gave me a thumbs up for talking about meat. Okay, and this is the thing that you can't really get anywhere else. Off and off Broadway. When every show is running, when it starts previews, openings, and closes. For example, this magazine is already from, this is from February 1st, but let's see, is anything happening today, February 16th? Yes, a couple of shows are closing today. American Tradition at the 13th Street Repertory, Eco Village at the theater at St. Clement's, a show that got quite a good review on TotalTheater.com called The Glen at Shetler Studios, which is based on, by the way, or inspired by, I should say, the life of a friend of the Daverhood and a late friend of mine, Glenn Loney, the educator and theater critic. He inspired somebody so much that he wrote a play called The Glen. Anyway, that's just for today, day by day, off and off Broadway. Then we move to a guide to awards and special events. Then we move to all the shows currently playing on Broadway and look at all the information about every show. Ain't Too Proud, Aladdin, Anastasia, The Band's Visit, Be More Chill, Beautiful, Book of Mormon, Share Show. All the people involved, how do you contact them, the synopsis, the theater that it's in, the dates of the show, the producers, the stage managers, production stage managers, press agents on every single page of Performing Arts Insider. And then we do that for Broadway as well as off and off Broadway. You can't get this information like this anywhere else except in the pages of Performing Arts Insider. How do you subscribe? Go to performingartsinsider.com, performingartsinsider.com to either get a single issue or to subscribe for a full season of 21 issues, or you can just get the monthly edition, performingartsinsider.com. It's expensive, but people who subscribe renew year after year because they know it's the only place they can get all that information in one place so neatly, so tidily, and so usefully, so practically. Performing Arts Insider, it is the Bible of Broadway. Well, let me tell you a little bit, one piece of off-Broadway news that isn't very happy news, unfortunately. A bit of a surprise, I'm afraid, and not a good one. The Davenport Theater, off-Broadway, owned and operated, or seemingly, well, operated, certainly, leased by Ken Davenport, who is a very personable, very out there producer. A lot of producers, they stay behind the scenes, they know their friends, they raise the money, they make money, and they get their names on that title page of the playbill, but you don't know their faces, you don't know who they are. This guy, he has a blog, he offers lessons for people I mean, you pay for them, on how to be a producer. He's got whole courses set up and seminars and things. I mean, he's really changing, or trying to change the paradigm of what a Broadway producer is. And he's had some great success. He's got money in Kiki Boots, and he's had some unfortunate failures as well. Late last season, getting the band back together, that took a couple $1 million bath. That's the nature of producing, right? So anyway, Ken Davenport also has a theater kind of off Broadway-ish, right on 45th Street, called the Davenport Theater. It recently hosted a show there called Popcorn Falls, which was pretty good, wasn't bad, and a show called Afterglow, a gay play that ran, had kind of an extended run there. But the Davenport Theater closed at the end of January, which is kind of a shame. Apparently he operates the space. He named the theater for his great-grandfather, who was a theater producer and publicist. It had, I forgot about this, it had 2 venues in the place, an 150-seat main stage that would count as off-Broadway, and also a 99-seat black box theater, which, depending on the contract, could also be an off-Broadway space. But anyway, I guess he had trouble making a go of it, and with that big flop show last year, I imagine funding became kind of tight to run a theater of that style. So I don't know what's happening with the space. I don't think it's going to remain a theater, alas. It's a little bit off the beaten path, kind of away from the main Broadway theaters. So, and I think the news is that they'll probably turn it into, I don't know, a restaurant or something like that. So unfortunately, bidding farewell to the Davenport Theater, but certainly Ken Davenport's going to produce more and do more stuff, especially on Broadway. Well, I want to do another theater review for you before we get to our special guest coming up, Jay Leonhart, calling in to talk to Rabbi Saul Solomon. I saw a show at the Repertorio Español, a theater that's been around for many, many years now. I mean, I was reviewing this literally 30 years ago. And they're down over on East 27th Street. They do their shows in Spanish, but most of them have English translation available. Sometimes they have it on the seat in front of you, almost like an airplane. In this particular case, they have the English translation high. It's just one space that everybody can look up at, kind of like on a screen to the right and above all the action on their stage. But the show is called La Celestina, La Celestina, is adapted by Lema Lopez from a play, or I guess a story, by Fernando de Rojas. Now, the amazing thing about this is that this was written originally, the story, back in 1499. Okay, so if you think about it, 7 years after Columbus discovered, quote unquote, America, this play was written, or this piece, this story, this novel was written, and apparently it was even based on an older story after that. But the author Fernando de Rojas adapted it, and he did the most famous version, and it's considered apparently one of the most famous stories in all of Spanish literature. And it's basically about this guy, this bachelor. His name is Callisto, and he's totally a Romeo type. He falls in love, he falls out of love, falls in love, and when he falls in love, or at least in lust, is like, gotta have her. So he enlists his two, I want to say henchmen, but they're really his aides de camp, to help him win over this nice virginal maiden of a proud family. And they enlist the help of, I guess you could call her almost a sorceress. She's a woman, she's like a rag picker in a way, and she's also a brothel owner. She has madams, well, she's the madam, she has hookers working for her. But she has a special thing of, like, when she goes to you, and when she visits and gets a piece of your clothing, then you're going to be overcome by lust, and it's going to take over. You know, it's almost like an enchantress, a spellcaster. So they enlist her help to make this woman fall in love with Callisto. It works. However, you know, you do business with thieves. This woman, whose name is La Celestina, she becomes a cheat. She tries to cheat these two guys, these two helpers. They don't take very well to that. They get revenge. And so it starts as almost a sex comedy, in a certain way, becomes truly a tragic comedy. You have as many bodies, not physically littering the stage, but you have the body count is almost as high as Hamlet in this piece at Repertorio Español called La Celestina. Is it worth seeing? And I have to say, and I love Repertorio Español, and they're great people, and they've done wonderful work there. And I've seen, what was it? There was a show there, a musical many years ago called Los Ibaros Progresistas that had some beautiful music in it, and they did Chronicle of a Death Foretold and La Gringa. I mean, I've had good times at Repertorio. This is not such a good time. It's 2 hours, no intermission, and I mean a full 2 hours to tell this story, which could easily be told in an hour. And I mean, I've digested the entire plot really in a minute and a half. You tease that out a little bit, but it just goes on and on to tell the story back and forth. They go to her, they go to the father. She falls. I mean, it's just It's not that it's boring. It's just very, very long and slow. And I'm sorry to say it. The acting is perfectly fine. La Celestina, the actress, is very good. I mean, I guess I should read the names out of the playbill to tell you who they are. And the lead actress, as it were, Carmen Borla, who plays Melibea. She's quite the looker and perfectly cast for her role as this noble kind of lady that Callisto falls in love with, and eventually she just falls under the spell and will do anything for him and anything to strip him. That happens. Not on stage, unfortunately. It'd be a lot easier to watch if that happened on stage, let me tell you. But anyway, I cannot recommend. I will give 2.5 stars. But if you've never been to Repertorio Español, it's a very charming place. And if you have a strong bladder and an even stronger constitution, you can go see that on East 27th Street. And the cool thing about Rep Español is that they run everything literally in repertory. They really do. So they have about 8 different plays going on at any given time. So in a week, they'll be doing 3 of these plays, and next week they'll do 3 others, then they'll go back to the first 3. So in the course of a season, and for years, they'll run some of these plays. They do a Don Quixote play that's been running for a bunch of years. Crónica de una muerte, what's the one? Dona Flor y sus dos maridos. Dona Flor and her 2 husbands. That has been running for ages, and you can still see it. So thumbs up for Repertorio, but kind of a thumbs down for La Celestina at Repertorio Español. And now we're waiting for the call in from our special guest. So I'm figuring out what to do here because we're going to switch him from the phone he's going to be supposed to be calling, but I don't have a number for him. What I can do is play some music and and try and deal with this. And the music that I'll play is from our special guest. So that should kind of work. Let me find a song for him that will kind of, that's sure, well, this should do us. Here's Jay Leonhart with Mike Renzi on piano with a song called Caribbean Island that segues into Salamander Pie. You're watching Dave's Gone By the way. It's 10:03 in the morning, Eastern Time. We're doing our 685th episode of the show. It's called Ace of Base in honor of this musician, Jay Leonhart.
Woke up one morning on a Caribbean island. Woke up drunk, wishing I were dead. When music from a saxophone it filled up the morning wet like 50 aspirins on my head. I asked myself what was a saxophone player doing all the way down here. Down here midst the natives in the Caribbean sun, surrounded by the ocean crystal clear. So I got up out of bed, tried to clear my head and find the music I heard that morning. Out with the tourists and Chiquitas, sipping morning margaritas, was a young man playing on his horn. He'd stroll amidst the tables, play his horn like Charlie Parker. Island rhythm section tag along. It seemed to be just impossible to me, so I sat and listened to him all day long. All day long. Later we did talk. I told him if he had to, he should walk to New York City. He could make it if he tried. Later on I heard he took me at my word. He went to New York City. Got a habit and die. I'll tell you a story and I won't lie. Mama used to make a salamander pie. Crunchy, munchy, good for you. Think about it, turn some folk blue. Well, you go down the creek, you take off your socks, look for the salamander underneath the rocks, find one, take a stick, and then you whomp him. If you can't find a stick, you just take your foot and stomp him. Salamander pie. Turn up the rocks and you watch them run. Little critter skitter in the noonday sun. Find one, take a stick, and then you sock it. Put what left into your pocket. Catch a mini salamander as you able. Go home, put the salamander on the table. Salamander good to fry or bake. You can make yourself a salamander pie or cake. salamander cake. Mama say that you just can't beat it. Mama say it, but you never eat it. I'll tell you a story and I won't lie. There ain't nothing finer than salamander pie. No, there ain't nothing finer than salamander pie. Yai, 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 yai.
Oh, shalom, my friends. Shalom, my enemies. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And I am thrilled and delighted today because, I get to talk to a talented, creative person who makes music. And is there anything greater than music in this world? His name is Jay Leonhart, and he has been called by so many people one of the outstanding jazz and cabaret bass players of our time. He's played with Buddy Rich and Peggy Lee and Mel Torme and Dick Hyman. He is on the cell. Thank you very much. Duke Ellington, Judy Garland. He is also a singer and songwriter, often autobiographical. He does funny, cute tunes like that, and all about his life. So some of the names that I mentioned, he's actually written songs about, and including, of course, his calling card tune, "It's Impossible to Sing and Play the Bass." But is it? Anyway, between 1975 and 1995, Jay Leonhart was named Most Valuable Bassist in the Recording Industry 3 times by the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences. So without further ado or a don't, let's make sure he's actually physically there. Jay, are you with us?
Yes, Rabbi, I am.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna make you hopefully a little bit louder. I'm not sure how to do that. Let's see if we can get this nice and loud. Well, no, for you, 12, because you're even better than Spinal Tap. They had one album. You've had several. And you've done a jazz trio and everything, but welcome, by the way, to the Daverhood.
Thank you very much.
So it is an honor and a pleasure. And let me ask, I want to get this right. How do we pronounce your name?
Leonhart.
Leonhart.
Exactly like you did. Thank you.
Oh, good. You're very, very welcome. It's spelled Leonhart. So there's a Jewish element in there in the Leon, but you're not Jewish, are you?
Well, I'm not sure because I've had to be. But my parents migrated from Germany in 1850, and there seems to be Jewish names all throughout. Simon from France and everything like that.
Ooh.
But my grandmother on my mother's side was named Simon. Her last name was Simon, but it was French, and I don't know whether that qualifies. I don't know. My wife's Jewish, so I just think.
Now have you been married to the same woman? If it's so, it's been many, many years.
Yeah, it has. And we are still married, very, very much married, and doing very nicely. And he loves me, she says. She leaves the right the door.
But is it true? I mean, considering, have you been married about 40 years or so? How long?
I think it's 48 years. I think
Oh.
1970, and this would be 49 years.
Mit Mazel, Mitglick on that. And of course, Mit Mazel on your career of lasting even longer than that. This is when you came, you one of those people who came starry-eyed to New York and said, okay, I'm going to make it here as a musician, yes?
Well, I don't know how starry-eyed I was, but I knew that I was going to get a lot more work here than I was going to get in Baltimore. And so I left just looking to be a good bass player in a very active music community to hopefully find my way. I had no kids. I had no major responsibilities. All I had to do was earn enough money in my early 20s to survive. And so I moved to New York and started working for people and, various things. I'd been to school with a pianist named Mike Longo. We went to Oscar Peterson School in Toronto, and we came back to New York. We decided to start a trio, which we did, and we started working.
Now, sorry.
Go ahead, that's all right.
Well, no, I wanted to also roll it back a little bit earlier because people know you for one instrument. But when you first started learning as a kid and stuff, you played almost every possible instrument, no?
No, not every possible instrument. I played piano. I do play guitar. And all the strings, the
But you could pick up a guitar. I mean, I don't know if you could do an ocarina, but you could do a guitar or still.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, but a little like I think there's years of playing bass. I'm not so delicate on the guitar anymore. I need to warm up a little bit, but I can still play guitar.
Well, actually, there's a question in there, and I was going to ask this because you're almost 80 years old. Were you 78, 79? 78 mid-mazel. Do you? I mean, the bass. I mean, you've got those two fingers out. You play the bass. Do you have to warm up more just to play the bass? Do you feel yourself? Do you have, God forbid, arthritis? I mean, what do you do? How do you still play the way you played 30 years ago?
Well, I don't think I play quite the way. I think I play smarter. But I know I played last night for 4 hours at a place here in New York called Untitled. And I seem to have a lot of stamina. I can play just about as well as I ever did. And I have to do exercise. I try to strengthen my back, my legs, blah, blah, blah. And I practice gently. Oh. And as long as things don't hurt too much, I have a little arthritis in my thumbs, but even one Advil tends to make that go away.
Oh,
usually none. Some usually
Well,
none.
Maza, I mean, maybe, some would say that the weird position that you have to keep your hand in will cause arthritis, but maybe the opposite with you. Maybe the fact that you use your fingers so much helps.
I think so.
So,
I really believe it.
How would you describe the way you play the bass? I mean, there aren't if you asked a person to name famous bass players, they couldn't. They go Jaco Pastorius, and then the electric bass like Paul McCartney and folks like. So, what is your style compared to other bass players?
Well, first of all, I'm playing the acoustic bass. The big stand-up bass.
Mm-hmm. The double bass.
Yeah. That's the one I play primarily now. Since I stopped, since the recording studios in New York sort of dried up in about the year 2000. I mean, there weren't just that many sessions. I'd always played upright bass, so my playing is very much oriented around the great jazz players. My favorite main influence would be Ray Brown. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's quite the jazz musician and played with everyone and had very successful groups with Oscar Peterson and Ella Fitzgerald and people like that. And he was quite a leader on his own and played beautifully. Just played the bass beautifully. And that was my main influence. And then other people have come along really who have shown me wonderful facets to playing, like Paul Chambers and Ron Carter, who I'm about the same age as, but he was making hit records when I was just puddling around New York. And their style and their approach to music and how they make the bass sound when they play, it's all influenced me. And yet somehow I had to find my own way of doing things because I knew I couldn't be any of them. So I sort of developed my own style too.
Now, part of your style, of course, is writing songs that are tailored to yourself, and they're jazzy, often very amusing. Was that part of? But what is your style when it's not even non-vocal?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, I mean, people know you because I'm not per se a jazz person, but I love nightclubs and cabaret and comedy. So I gravitate towards that aspect of the songs that you do. But if you were to absent the songwriting of what you do and just talk about the way you play bass, without a song that you've written with no vocals, how would you describe it?
How would I describe it? I'm very much a jazz rhythm section player, supportive player to soloists, supportive player to singers, and I try to play firmly and in tune and with good solid time and good sense of swing.
Good sense, yeah.
And that's the way I played. And swing is something that has been replaced a little bit by more like the bossa nova and straight eight rock feeling and the samba feelings, which are different than the old-fashioned swing, but it's still a huge place for it.
Now, sorry, but now when, as you said, you came to New York, you knew it would be difficult. Did you ever have to take day jobs when you were starting? Yeah.
I thought about it. I got to the point when I was single. I never had to worry about that because I didn't need much money. But then I got married in 1970, and we had children. And after that, there were times when we were running close try to find a way to work a little bit more. There was a lot of music in New York at the time. Broadway shows, commercials, jingles, recordings, and so you had to make yourself good enough to do all those things. So I worked a lot at the bass and became a very good studio musician to the point that I did win that award 3 times.
Well, can I ask also, did you ever play in the Broadway pit or just on cast? What? Sorry.
Often when I was young.
Oh, what shows?
I would sub in a lot of shows. I never really had a hit show, although I did play with Liza Minnelli in 1976 in a show called The Act. I played that. But for the most part, I just subbed for others. And at one point, I was like the first sub on Broadway. Every show on Broadway at the time, if the bass player needed a sub, they'd call me. But that didn't last because you can't possibly juggle that many balls in the air.
Mm.
And my last sub was when I was playing The King and I at Lincoln Center about 20 years ago, and I mastered the part. And I got to the pit. The pit was very crowded, and after the first song, I knocked the music stand over. My music went flying across the floor, and I didn't play for the next 3 songs while I was gathering up my music. And at intermission, they had somebody come in to replace me.
Oh.
So then I was thinking of a song called The King and Not I. But that was the last time I bothered to try to sub on Segue. Because it's not easy, and then you have to go in and play. You got to sound like the person you're subbing for. And if you don't like your style, it means you've got to really bend over backwards to keep the job. And I said, no, I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm going to really start working on my own music, play my own songs, and I'm going to take a chance. So that's when I started doing that.
Wow.
For real.
And you have a bunch of albums out, and you've been, of course, a studio musician on albums as well. But I am always, of course, curious about a couple of things. Stories, comic anecdotes like the one in the orchestra pit. So were there other disastrous nights? Because if you play, and you constantly play places like Birdland, and where are you going to be? You're going to be at this Mesro place. So what are some disaster moments that you've had?
Disaster. I'll tell you the biggest disaster
Oh.
I had. I was playing a benefit at Carnegie Hall for Sting, and I was the bass player in the band. And I mean, they had James Taylor and Sting, and I mean, just the major pop players of the day who were all doing this rainforest benefit.
Uh-huh.
And Pavarotti was in it. I mean, you can't imagine the stars that show up for this thing to raise money for this charity that Sting and his wife
Truly, is it? Yeah.
support, and it was never advertised. It was always sold out for $400 a seat or something like that at Carnegie Hall. Well, I did the whole sound check work for the week beforehand, and then I thought the show started at 8 o'clock, and it started at 7. So I'm walking merrily down to Carnegie Hall, and Sting and James Taylor and everybody else was standing there waiting for me to show up to play the bass. And the audience is in there, and the show was delayed 45 minutes. And Sting looked at me and gave me a very dirty look. He said, "I'm sorry, nobody told me to start at 8 o'clock." And I haven't spoken to Sting since.
Oh. Have you spoken to Pavarotti since? Was he mad too?
No, he was upstairs. He was just minding his business upstairs. He didn't know about that.
Oh.
But it was very upsetting to me. But I didn't know it started at 7. I thought it started at 8. Everything starts at 8 o'clock at Carnegie
Right.
Hall.
Yeah.
And I never got the call for 7 o'clock.
Oh, well.
So, anyway, so that was the end of that.
Yeah, no, I'm new. Yeah.
So, I always enjoyed the show. It was a lot of fun to do. It was a rather prestigious show to do. But it stopped, and that was that.
Well, yeah. Well,
I have no more disasters I want to learn. That's my main musical and personal disaster that I experienced in the business.
Well, and that personally affected you, but what about stories? I mean, if you're in nightclubs playing, and as you say, sometimes 4 hours at a time, any amazing stories that while you were playing, you saw happening in the audience?
Oh, yeah. I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, sometimes nightclubs guys have fights. they want to think that's some grief, that's some problem with each other, like in business or organized crime or something like that. You never really know. And they get in fights. And you're sitting there playing, and there's a huge brawl going on in the front row. And that happened once with Peggy Lee, and she never dropped a beat. I was working with her. She never dropped a beat. She never acknowledged it and kept right doing her song. She was amazing like that.
Whoa.
And then there was a time in a restaurant in New York. I was playing with somebody, and John Gotti was in the audience with two of his girlfriends. And somebody crossed him. And then the next thing I knew, there was a big thug came in the front door of the restaurant and beat the crap out of this guy. Just beat him mercilessly. We're standing right there looking at it. I'm going, oh my God. You know, so some things like that. But if you're in enough crowds long enough, you're going to see stuff happen. I've seen people drop dead at the audience. The bandstand to congratulate us just go plunk and they're gone. But not a lot. But it happens if you're in a group of people for long enough, you're going to see stuff.
Now, let me ask who, maybe in audiences or people that you played with, have given you the most, I don't want to say the Jewish word nachas, but where you like, I can't believe I'm so lucky that I'm playing this bass and I'm looking out in the audience and there's so-and-so, or so-and-so's congratulating me afterwards.
Well, I've had my share of those. I don't know if you ever heard of Charles Mingus.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, he was, here I am, a white boy from Baltimore, come up to New York, trying to play jazz, and I'm in a little club, and Mingus walks in, sits down at the table, the owner buys him dinner, and he invites me over to his table, and he starts to talk to me, and he really likes my playing. He really likes the way I play, because I play sort of like he does. I play simply, try to play the right notes, try to create a good sense of time, and everything. And we had a nice talk all night long, and it was one of the most, and I was very young at the time, it was very encouraging. A legend like Charles Mingus should be so kind and so nice and so appreciative. And then one other time I was playing with Tony Bennett, Duke Ellington sitting in the audience. And Duke Ellington comes up on the stage and plays, Tony invites him up to the stage.
Yeah.
And Duke plays C-Jam Blues. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, an old famous Ellington piece. And I'm sitting there playing with it. And I take a little solo and he says, yeah. You know, and I'd like just to Ellington just compliment me on something I played.
Well, did that inhibit, I mean, when you had to play with Duke Ellington up there, and not to mention Tony Bennett, do you get stage frighty or nervous or go like, oh, crap, you know, look who I'm dealing with, or do you just, you know your stuff so well, then it's like, oh, no, let me just play the song.
There's a lot of just, let me play the song, and of course you're always impressed with yourself playing for people like that, but you do get used to it. You know, I toured with Tony for 2 years, and all these people for a little while in the beginning. Sometimes I would, you know, they paid pretty decently, and I could use the money for the kids. I had two kids, both, by the way, are in Europe right now with Steely Dan. They both play with Steely Dan. And, and I needed money, so I would play with these people, and you get used to it. You get used to the fact that you're a good bassist. They want you to play for them. You can do the job. You make it easy for them. And you, after a while, you say, yes, well, this is what I do.
Well, do you have any Tony Bennett stories since you were on tour with him for like 2 years?
Not a lot.
Okay.
Because I really wasn't close to him at that point. He had a little coterie of friends that we hung out with, Ruby Braff, the clarinetist, and I never sort of made it into the inner circle with him, because I did not with Sinatra either. I never got close to Sinatra, even though I worked with him a bit.
When did you work, well, even if you didn't have any stories about him, on what did you work with Sinatra?
I worked at Carnegie Hall with him in the 80s. We did a 2-week run there in the 80s. And I had talked to him before. He had come into clubs where I'd been playing. He'd been very friendly and very approachable. Came up to me and was real nice. But once I started working for him, you didn't get to talk to him anymore. He had his group of protectors, But it was just because he had a way about him. He was getting old at that point, and probably was hungover a lot and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Well, do you have nice stories? Did you play? I mean, one of the people mentioned on your website is also Judy Garland.
Right? No, I didn't know Judy at all. Never.
Oh.
But I just played in the orchestra with her band because they came down to Baltimore, and when I was down there, and the bass player couldn't make it, so somebody recommended me, and I went over to Meriwether Post Pavilion and played the week with her. And it was phenomenal, but she was not in good health at the time. She was very protective of herself. And she didn't know me, and I didn't think it was my place to go barging into the dressing room and trying to get close to her because she wasn't well, and it was an extraordinary experience. I'd never seen an audience respond to anybody like that ever. And they just when the song ended, the roar was like an explosion. Where you could feel the sound wave against your body of the roar of the audience when she finished. Can
you explain it? I mean, I know she meant a lot to women and to gay people and stuff. I mean, and she was, I'm sure, great. But what was it? I mean, she's not greater than someone like Peggy Lee or Marilyn May, who
her life. She was very, she was not well. When she sang, Rainbow sat there, beat down from the edge of the stage. No one was just singing up by herself. She could tear your heart out with that. And she did. She was, she was a great actress. So was her daughter, Liza Minnelli. That was Liza's biggest strength, was really as an actress. And,
well, do you have any Liza stories? Because you were in the pit for the act.
Oh, yeah. I traveled with Liza for a while.
Oh.
And I have stories that I will not tell.
All right.
I mean, nothing salacious or anything like that. But we became very good friends. We hung out a lot. And she was a lovely person. She really was a very kind-hearted woman.
But she's alive. Liza Minnelli's perfectly fine.
Well, she's fine. She's gotten heavy, and her back's killing her now.
Oh.
And she's not performing much. She's not in good health.
Oh, I did not realize, because last we saw of her, she had those roles on our Dev, and she's very funny, and she seemed okay, just heavy. I didn't realize that she was battling things now.
Well, yeah, she is heavy. She could barely get up on the stage. I worked with her recently at an incredible fashion show here in New York by somebody famous male fashion house that makes shoes, Rabbi, something like that. I'm supposed to know all this, but I don't. Everybody else knows the name of it, but except for me. And they had 200 male models from all over the world creating these incredible clothes and shoes. You can't imagine what these people were wearing. And Liza came up on the stage. She was hired to come up on the stage and sing a little bit, but it was background music. She was singing background music to a fashion show. And Michael Feinstein was standing there with her, and she wanted to be at her left because she felt comfortable. We knew each other so long. So there we are. I'm in the bass on her left. She's sitting in this little chair singing, and Michael's on the right just guiding her along.
Yeah.
With a small orchestra. And it was fun, but it was sad because it was a background gig for this.
Well, no, I mean, she chose to do it. I mean, Liza, if she wanted to, and she got healthy enough, could easily sell out a Broadway theater again for a month. I mean, she chose to do that gig.
Sure. Absolutely, yes. Well, she probably needs the money. She probably needs it. She's going to help Michael. I don't know. People make a lot of money off of finances directly.
Oh.
As you may have heard.
Well, let me ask you, Jay Leonhart. I mean, you mentioned that, thank God, you work constantly, and you've been doing so for many years. But still, you're a husband with 2 kids. What do you do about insurance? Because so many musicians, they're fine, but God forbid they get sick, and there's nothing. Do you have it like from a musicians union at least, or something like that?
Well, we do have a musicians union where if you're working sufficiently, you can be covered in an all right fashion. I was able to, sometimes I did things under the Screen Actors Guild SAG. I sang on a commercial or something like that. You get covered, supremely good insurance. But I was usually covered by by the union. And
because you have a persistent cough at the moment. I'm a little worried.
I do. Well, me too. No, I do have a persistent cough. I had a cold. I got it on New Year's Eve, and I'm still having what they call post-nasal drip going down into your lungs, into your what do you call it?
Bronchi and all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, bronchi. That's what I'm thinking of. And every once in a while it tickles, and you have to cough it up, or just cough the tickle away. And that's from post-nasal drip, which is not disappearing. But I feel great. I'm in good health. I've got plenty of energy.
Knock wood, lullaby.
And I've got the doctors looking at me. No matter what, here they are now.
Oh, so let me ask a few more questions. Do you have a couple more minutes?
I have all day.
Oh, well, there we go. We're gonna talk to Jay Leonhart all day. We'll maybe daven mincha with him. It'll be fun. But let me ask you also. Now you wrote a song, and this is totally out of the blue, but I'm just checking. You once wrote a song called "They're Coming to Get Me," and you mentioned, do you actually believe in UFOs, or is that just sort of a jokey song?
Well, I wrote it because a friend of mine who was a very good pianist, he did believe in UFOs, and would go out into Central Park to look for them. Not to see if they existed, but he would just want to see one because he knew they were there.
Okay.
And my sense is that, there's probably has to be life out there in the universe. They can't just, no planet was unable to, it took a great series of coincidences for life to pop up on this planet.
True.
But there's several billion, trillion planets out there, and it has to have happened someplace else. Okay, could they get here? Not likely, unless they were a billion years advanced on us, which they could be, of course. They could. And they found a way to zip through wormholes and time and all like that and get here. Do I believe that they're here? No, I have not seen any evidence of that in my 78 years. I've been looking. Not one shred of evidence.
Well, you don't live in Kansas in a cornfield either, because that's where, for some reason, their coordinates all hit Kansas in Area 51 or something. I don't know. Nebraska.
That's interesting. They like corn. Maybe they've run out of corn over there.
That could be. Maybe they have popcorn poppers and nothing to put in them. And they're like, we got to make an Earth run.
What are these things for?
Yeah.
That's the same thing I said back in Moses' day. Moses' wife gave him a birthday present. It was a television set. And he said, that's great. And then he was kind of moping around the house. And his wife said, what's the matter, Moses? He says, there's nothing on.
Oh, my goodness. There's got to be some kind of extinction. There's got to be a topper to that joke. I just can't think of maybe he invented the aerial. That's what he did. There was a stick, and he waved it, and it split right in half. And he walked right in between it, and that became a TV aerial. I tried. I'm sorry. It's true. It's true. He should have gotten Netflix at that point.
But that's the point. There was no television.
I get the yes. But anyway, what? In the days before television, what people would do is they would go out and they would go to the theater and they would go to concerts and they would go to cabarets and nightclubs. The nice thing is, sorry.
I said, yeah, they didn't. They really did.
But now people, thank God, can still do that. And if you go out and you want to hear some great jazz music in a club, you can go to a place like Birdland, where Jay Leonhart will be playing on Saturday, February 23rd. You can see him at Birdland. As a matter of fact, even before then, if you want to go down to the Village, this Tuesday night, February 19th, you'll be at a place called Mesro, which you'll be with a trio, yes?
Yeah, it's a great little club. It's absolutely wonderful.
And
it's on 10th the village, and it is really a great club.
And one of the other things that we also wanted to push and mention, which is kind of an odd combination here, but if you're one of these TV junkies who likes the news channel or the news opinion channels, I'll call them, you know who Ari Melber is. Now, he has this thing where he hosts kind of a variety show called In Your Face, New York, and you're going to be there. What? Sorry, yeah. I'm plugging your stuff. Let me do it here.
I was hoping you were going to be there.
Oh,
yeah. Well, it's actually on the internet. It's a very, very good, funny, original internet show. Internet like variety satire, political satire show.
Oh.
And it's been running for years now on the internet, and it's constantly running. It's called In Your Face, New York, and they're good shows, and people watch them, and they're getting more and more popular. And Ari is going to be the host of it this time. We've got some very, very good people hosting it, and it'll be very, very interesting to see what he's up to. Well, does he want to sing and dance? What's he want to do? And I'm the musical director of it, so I have to decide. I run the band, and I have to decide what I have to write the music, the themes, and a lot of music I write for it.
Oh my God! Well, people can find out what Jay Leonhart is going to write, what music he will have, and what Ari Melber will do. And you can do this on Wednesday, March 13th. I know it's a couple of weeks away, but Wednesday, March 13th, and it's at Merkin Hall on West 67th Street. So it's close to Lincoln Center there. And then you'll be what?
It's a fun show. It's really fun to be at.
Good. I'm hoping it's fun. I want people to come. I want people to come to your stuff. And if you miss him, by the way, at Birdland on the 23rd of February, he'll be back on March 21st at Birdland. And there's so much that you do that the best way to find out where Jay Leonhart is and what he's up to is jayleonhart.com, Jay, and he spells it. It's spelled like Leonhart. So it's Leonhart, jayleonhart.com, and that gives a whole calendar of what you're doing and where you'll be. And I think, can they buy your albums there too?
Yes, they can. They just have to go to the store. You know how it is. Go to the store.
Go to the store. And you have a book there, don't you? Also.
I have just volume 1 of many volumes to come. I haven't gotten around to writing volume 2 yet. I'm working on it. I am working on it, but it's not complete.
Cool. Well, 1 or 2 more questions. Oh, sorry.
I have to finish because I wrote that song just thinking about my friend coming to get me and what it would be like, what he would be expecting to have to happen to him if the ship showed up suddenly and they took him. It was sort of like Encounters of the Third. What was that? Strange. What was that?
Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah.
Close Encounters. I mean, it was sort of really inspired by that. I just put it to music, and it happened to be a pretty melody. And every time I sing it, the audience sort of falls into the trap, and they start thinking, "Yeah," and I start falling into the trap too. And so we do it very wistfully, and if you have, it's on my latest album. Actually, that's a nice play.
Oh, excellent. What's the name of your latest album?
Don't You Wish.
All right, I wish. Tell me what the name of your latest album is.
Don't you wish?
I am wishing. That's why I'm asking you, goddammit. What is the name of your latest? I'm just kidding, of course.
Don't you wish?
Don't you wish? From Jay Leonhart. What I wish to hear from you, though, Jay, is what, if I may call you Jay, what is the one or two favorite songs of your own that you have composed over the years?
Well, I have to say that that Coming to Get Me, which we were just talking about, is one of my favorites. Because it always works. When the audience always gets into it, the players always seem to really respond to it in a beautiful way. And it's a good moment. And then a song that has been, Tony Bennett told me in one of our conversations someplace that this was my song, me and Lenny, about being on an airplane with Leonard Bernstein. He says, "That's your San Francisco, Jay. You got to do it every time you play." I said, "My San Francisco, yeah, that's fine." But nonetheless, he's right. It's a song that has gotten me some reputation around the world, and I do it all the time. And I've got a lot of songs that I really like, though. I mean, I can't. There's about 20 of them that I've really put in the top tier that I really like to perform and audiences relate to.
Now, if you don't mind my asking, though, not to give away the, because I don't have the song in front of me to play, is there a story with Leonard Bernstein? Is there, what is the song? I mean, so you sat next to him on an airplane, and?
How do you know that much? How do you know?
You just told me. What you just said. That's why, yeah.
Oh, yes. All right. Yeah, I sat next to him on an airplane, and we just talked. And I had a great time. We're going from New York to California. We had to both be in first class. I mean, the bass player riding in first class is a rarity, but there I was. Because I was working for some people out there who insisted. And we had a nice time talking, and he was exhausted from Pennsylvania. He had a show about Pennsylvania something, or I forget what it was, Pennsylvania. Not 6,500, that's the old song. But I forget what it was, but it was about the White House, and it failed, and he was exhausted from it.
Okay.
And I believe he was getting sick at the time. I didn't realize that. But and yet we had a lovely conversation and talked all the way across the country. And he was just brilliant. It was such fun. And talked about everything. And then we got off the plane, and that was the last I saw him. So I talked about all this, and then I complained at the end that he never writes. And I do it in a hopefully humorous way.
Yeah.
And that was the whole point of the song. It's a real encounter with Leonard Bernstein for 6 hours on a plane.
Oh, wow.
And then nothing else. Although I do have a poster from him, which he heard the song and loved it. And so I had that.
Oh, that's so it does have kind of a postscript, a happy ending on that.
Yes,
wow.
Yes, it does. Except that he died too young, but he really did. He shouldn't have died that early. But he was quite the guy.
Well, you, Jay Leonhart, are quite the guy as well, and it has been a joy and an honor talking with you about your music, about your life, about your good health, thank God, and about being able to see you in so many places so often. For example, at Mesro on this Tuesday. Sorry, what?
No, that's good. I love it when you recap.
Well, this is what we do. You know, when you're Jewish, you read the Torah, and as soon as you finish the Torah, you start over again. So this is what I do on my show. I read all the pushes, I plug everything, and then I plug again. So Mesro on Tuesday, Birdland next Saturday the 23rd, then on March 13th, Ari Melber's In Your Face, New York at Merkin Concert Hall, and then Thursday the 21st at Birdland, plus you do a couple of gigs in New Jersey in between. Find out about them at jayleonhart.com, JLEONHART.com. Last question for you, Jay. So I've asked you what your favorite songs of your own are. What is your all-time favorite song by somebody else?
Boy, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I narrow it down to Just the Way You Look Tonight.
Oh.
The sentiment that grabs me. Jam Blues Upwards, utter simplicity and beauty. It's such a simple song, and just the absolute persona, the indication of Ellington's genius and swing. It's a couple of the Bergman songs that just, it might as well be spring. No. Their spring song, I forget what the name of it is. It's not, it might as well be spring, and it's not Spring Can Hang You Up the Most.
And it's not Springtime for Hitler, I know that one, but
Spring, it's a spring, and I can't remember the title of it. I love that song, and there's an awful lot of songs that I truly love. I mean, so much of Harold Arlen's songbook is just gorgeous.
well,
and you know, we go on and on and on. I could name 200 songs if I sat and wrote a list that I just love. You know, so just for the way they're written and the way what they express in the lyric and their humanity. I mean, Dave Frischberg is a fan favorite of mine because his lyrics are so good, so good. I mean, he's just such a wonderful songwriter to me. And the list goes on. I mean, and I'm leaving out, of course, Berlin and all these others.
And let's not forget Shlomo Carlebach. You're leaving him out. That's
Shlomo Carlebach. I mean, I recorded with him. I
No joke. He used to play the Village Gate back in the 1960s, so you may very well have actually played with Shlomo. So.
I think I did, because I think I made a record with him at some point early on.
Wow.
A lot of people. I mean, I was just running back from studio to studio all day long, as you know, and that's tedious. It's musically kind of deafening, because you end up playing everybody else's music song that stinks.
Wow.
And you have to play it.
Well, are you on any rock albums? I'm just curious about. Did you ever do any acid rock or electric jazz or that kind of thing?
I played a little bit on Buzzy. Some guy used to bite the head off birds.
Wait. You were on an Ozzy Osbourne album?
Yeah.
When the hell were you on an Ozzy Osbourne album?
I mean, I did some backgrounds for him, and just smattering some people who, the Supremes, the woman who played for the Supremes.
Diana Ross?
Diana Ross. I played on some first time I did some Aretha Franklin things.
Whoa.
James Brown, I did some work for him.
Whoa. I had no idea. This is not on your website. I had no idea about these. Tell me a James Brown story.
Well, let me see. There are not a lot of good stories. I met him because he was playing the Tonight Show around 1973, and his bass player didn't make it. And they looked around for a bass player who could play that funky style.
Yeah.
Who could read, who could walk in and do it the first time through without any problem. And so I was a good studio musician, so he called me and asked me to do it. So I played with him there, and then we became friends. And I did the occasional session with him, or date with him, and never got credit for it. It was always there on the bass player that mentioned. They said, I'm sorry, we can't put you on the credits. You just have to do an overdub.
But was he intact back then? Was it before the drugs? Was he still almost a normal human being, or was he already on the death? Yeah.
He was actually a very nice human being. I liked him very much. And another story is I had when my first album came out called Salamander Pie, which came out in 1984. It was one of the very first jazz CDs, and for a minute it was way high on the Cashbox, which used to be a magazine, a music magazine, on their list of best-selling CDs. And I looked at the one time and I was like number 7, and Miles Davis was number 10. And I said, oh my God. But Miles Davis had just come out, and so he hadn't quite gone to the roof, but he knocked me right off the list. So I met him up in Saratoga, New York, at a concert up there. And I looked at him and I said, Miles, you just knocked me off of Cashbox's top 10. And I expected him to go, yes. He said, man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that to you. You know, it was just as sweet and sincere as he could be.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm happy to hear these stories, because it isn't just that we want to hear bad stories about our idols or these great celebrity people. I love hearing when they're lovely, or they're nice, or friendly, or funny, you know?
Well, I'm not much on ugly stories about people, you know. I tend to forget them. I do. I just tend to forget about it.
Great.
And, because it's not helpful. That help me. Anyway, listen, you know what? I've got to go pick up my grandson.
Oh, Mazel. Mazel.
Yes, he is. Yes, he's 10 years old. He's up at a friend's house, and I've got to go pick him up this morning.
Well, this is perfect timing. And you're, at times, having picked up a bass player, too, so it kind of fits.
That's right.
A little joke there.
All my life.
So we're just thrilled that you've taken this time out of your life to be in the Daverhood with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Jay Leonhart. Find out more about him at JayLeonhart.com, JayLeonhart.com. It just remains for me to say thank you so much for being with us in the Daverhood. Much more music, much good health, and shalom to you.
Shalom to you, too. Thank you very, very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jay Leonhart, ladies and gentlemen, here on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio program of the stream. We're going to bring Dave back in just a moment or two, but until then, let's hear some Jay Leonhart. As a matter of fact, his signature tune, of course, where You know, it's impossible to sing and play the bass unless you're him.
So let me tell you something as our lesson starts. It is something that I hope you'll take into your hearts. So I'll tell you as we settle into place. It's impossible to sing and play the bass. You're a lovely group of people. You deserve the courtesy of knowing what you can expect of me. I've practiced, but it will not mean a thing, 'cause it's impossible to play the bass and sing, sing, sing. You see, the bass is fretless. It's not like a guitar. On bass, you spend your whole life wondering where the hell you are. It's got no little markers, just a fingerboard so bare, and lots of notes which often are not there. Then when you start singing, you've got lyrics on your mind, and the notes on bass become impossible to find.
Some comedy and music there, of course, from the wonderful Jay Leonhart on Dave's Gone By. So thrilled to have such a legend. I mean, we've had Dick Hyman on the show. Now we've had Jay Leonhart on the program. It's really, really just been an honor and just great and so much fun stories. Now remember, by the way, that if you tune in late, because there are people who still think that we don't even start the show until 11 New York time, because we were in Colorado all those years and we're running on a different time zone. Now we're on from 9 to 11:30, 12 from here. So if you missed all or part of that marvelous interview with Jay Leonhart, it's okay. Give it a day. Go to my website, davesgoneby.com, DAVESGONEBY, davesgoneby.com, and you can find the archives of the program. So once we get this, once the show's over with, we'll save it, we'll archive it, and then you can watch it again or just listen to it again, because we are still essentially a radio show podcast that happens to have a visual element. But we save them. So if you missed the show from last week, it's there. If you missed the show from a month ago, it's there. If you missed the show from 10 or 16 years ago when we started Dave's Gone By, almost every show we ever did is there. All the interviews. I mean, we've had, sure, Jay Leonhart has been on. We've had musicians like Christine Lavin and Tom Paxton and Neil Sedaka and Peter Tork and, Loudon Wainwright III and Amy Mann and Janice Ian. These have all been people in the Daverhood over the years, and you can hear the interviews that we have done with them on davesgoneby.com. So do check it out. There's also photos of the show. We also have a separate archive of the interviews themselves without the rest of the. So my darling adorable wife is joining us again for the show. Now, without being specific, yes. What's going on in this house?
We had two doctors visit, and I talked to all your family members.
Oh, that's more nightmarish than the doctors visiting. So is everything kind of okay? How much do we want to divulge?
Fine.
Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Fine.
I mean, we basically had a crisis where we thought someone was in somewhat imminent danger of dying. Yes. And yet it's more important that I do this show than actually care about this family member.
Do you want some water?
I've got this. I've got
take some salsa. Do you want lemon or regular?
I've already been burping during the show.
Okay. You want lemon or regular? Either one.
Which one do you drink less of?
Try regular.
I'll try regular.
Then you can keep this as your own.
It will keep me regular, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dave, by the way. Dave Lefkowitz, the producer of Dave's Gone By. That's my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, who's giving me the word downstairs that we've just had. Because I'm literally up here trying to do a show. And she's like, no, you can't have your guest call on the regular phone because we need the regular phone in case we need an ambulance or doctor. And I can't, and meanwhile, I'm trying to be presentational, and I'm yelling like, I can't do this now, I'm on the radio, because it's so much more important to be here than coping with a family member who might die.
No, but your guest probably heard Mom and hung up because your mom kept saying, hello, hello, and then I think the person hung up and they called again. So there were your guest called twice.
Oh, no, when I picked up the phone one time, it was my aunt, and I hung up on her. And then he forgot to call in. So it was fine. I was able to call him on the cell phone, and it was fine.
And you used the cell phone, good.
Yeah,
perfect.
I use my cell phone because I can't figure out how to make a phone call on your cell phone.
Okay, I'll show you.
It's a cell phone. I can see all the calls you've gotten.
David, you're gonna be the next one needing some. I have some medication.
I've never seen such a thing. It's a telephone, and the one thing it doesn't show is where you can put a phone number and call it. Unbelievable. I need to. I'm glad the news is good.
Yeah, relax.
Obviously.
Just relax.
So we've done what we've already done on the show. We've got Jay Leonhart on the program. We had Inside Broadway.
I heard the rabbi yelling.
He's yelling with joy. It was
he
wonderful.
complaining or was he just yelling?
No, he's just yelling. He's
okay,
rabbi.
Just yelling.
Yeah. No, that was fabulous.
Was he trying to get a tax reduction? I thought he was trying to get his taxes.
We found that I haven't had time to check this, but someone told us this week. Someone who lives in a very Orthodox neighborhood, very close to here, that one of the things that infuriates her. And she's a Jewish woman, but infuriates her about all the Orthodox and the Chabadniks coming into the neighborhood is that there are a lot of rabbis on the block, which should be a beautiful thing. But apparently, if you're a rabbi, you don't pay taxes.
We don't know if it's true.
I'm not sure if that's true. No, I know obviously churches themselves and temples don't pay taxes. But it didn't occur to me that the people who just rabbis themselves certainly don't have to pay property taxes on their own homes, unless my guess is what they do is that they conduct some services and they have teaching stuff in the home so that the home becomes a kind of temple.
Or maybe they're a rabbinical student, and if you're a rabbi, maybe it's where you live, and maybe it could be.
Well, you do live.
But if you study at home, maybe that's like your yeshiva.
And therefore, you have to understand that we're out of Colorado now. We're in New York, where the property taxes per year on a normal single family home is, these, I won't say, but certainly from 12,000 a year.
It's more.
So these people, they're not paying. They're not paying what?
Even if seniors have an abatement of 10,000, the taxes are high.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's what
we left 10 years ago. Our taxes were over 10.
We were over 10. So that's why I'm thinking our house was about 10.
That's 10 years ago.
Cheapers. And it's all school taxes for sure, but it's like, I
think it's also for kvetching tax.
And there's a kvetch tax.
Yes.
There's a kashrut tax.
Yes.
What other kinds of taxes would there be?
There's I didn't call shimmy enough tax.
That's right.
I forgot to call shimmy.
Yes. I'm a little worried, but I'm not worried enough tax.
There's the guilt tax.
Oh, the guilt tax is enormous.
There's a tzedakah tax.
Really?
Yes.
Well, we paid that one. Again, we have it right here.
Yeah.
For let's see, this is the Institution of Kupat Rambam Kolel Poland
Jerusalem.
Then
they changed it. Look, so I think the person died or something, and then they changed the person who gets it.
Oh, so now it goes to... No, it's the same place.
Oh,
it's
it is?
Rabbi Meyer Baal Heinous. Okay.
Too close to a word I don't want to say.
I know, that's right. But anywho, it is almost, it is exactly 11 o'clock in the morning Eastern Time here in Colorado. I'm Dave Lefkowitz doing the Dave's Gone By program. We're calling this one Ace of Bass in honor of our guest, bassist Jay Leonhart. My darling and adorable wife, Joyce, is back with us. Mm-hmm. So for the couple of things...
Is it okay? Can I stand? Because I was sitting...
Oh, if you want to stand, for sure. Okay. But do you want to be the little child, the little, as Rabbi Saul would say, the little tiny kinderlach, because it's time for story time.
I don't have my milk and cookies.
Oh.
But can I hear? Why don't you, when you do it, why don't you hold the baby Torah?
I would love that. Okay. All right.
You could hold it like a cushion.
But wait, this is not a Jewish story time at all.
But it's like a cushion.
Oh, okay. So, but you're the child. I'm going to read to you.
Okay.
Unless you want to read to me, and I can be the baby.
I'm holding it off camera.
Because, oh my goodness, ladies and gentlemen, we've done some wonderful stories on Storytime. We had stories of little Jewish children growing up, and certainly non-Jewish. Hans and his cow, which started the whole segment. We've had a Bill Cosby story about little Bill. We remember that one. We had a crazy chicken story. We had a story about the vegetable friends, including our potato friend.
And what about a line bear?
A couple of weeks ago, we did my 1987 driver's handbook on how to take the driving test. So we do. That was fun. Yeah. But now, children gather around. 3, 4, 5-year-olds. You're going to want to be part of this story time because I know this is the book that I loved hearing when I was growing up. It's story time and time for home health emergencies.
You need a woo, 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 woo.
A guide to home nursing and first aid and family health emergencies.
That's good.
from the Medical Department of the Equitable Life Assurance Society of the United States.
I think you should say now defunct. I don't think that's any.
All right, right. It's equitable. Maybe they morphed. They were probably eaten and
by somebody. Yeah.
It's a guide to common sense ways of handling the accident and illness problems that from time to time come to you and your family. Amen. It tells something of the why of many health conditions and offers down-to-earth suggestions about what to look for and what to do. But it does more.
Oh, good.
Children, this book spells out how to prevent many conditions with the purpose of helping you make the best of your own resources of time and energy and knowledge that you and your family can gain for yourselves. So they have 2 parts to the book, by the way, home nursing and then first aid. So I'm going to let you, since you're my little child audience, as it were, what would you rather hear about first aid or home nursing while I sneeze?
I don't know. You pick the one you think is better.
Ooh. Oh,
just do like this. Go. Whoop, whoop.
I'll do a random passage in this delightful book.
Yes. Ooh.
Pardon me.
You need some. Maybe you need.
I need some home nursing. I do. There we go. Oh no, that's too close to home. Yeah. Just hit respiration count. Oh, let's talk about the croup.
Okay.
Remember the croup?
I do. Yes.
All right.
I dated the croup once.
Really? Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you date the croup in a group?
I was a croupie.
Did you give him soup?
I was a croupie.
No, were you a croupie? Oh,
yeah,
I love that.
Croupie, yeah.
Did you gamble? Were you a croupier?
I got to stand up.
Oh, got to stand up. So let's talk about the croup, shall we?
Yes.
Babies and small children are sometimes affected by croup, a condition marked by difficulty in breathing. Very good. True croup is the result of a spasm or involuntary contraction of the larynx. Oh, see, he's spasming.
Yeah.
Look at that. He's having a spasmgasm of the larynx.
And I stuck.
Which is your voice box, by the way. This causes a narrowing of the passages through which air goes to and from the lungs. A condition similar in appearance to croup, but more serious, results from an infection of the larynx. So he's infected.
No, he's scared.
Oh no. Oh. And he's also egg-sided.
Yes, and they see him on your head.
Watch out there. I'll duck down. You can put him there. Oh, it's okay, little Eggy. This infection hinders breathing because it brings about a swelling of the inside of air passages. Frequently, the trouble spreads to the trachea and bronchi. Now, this is very, very weird because Rabbi Sal Solomon was just talking to Jay Leonhart, and they mentioned bronchi because he has postnasal drip.
Wasn't she a writer, Emily Bronchi?
Oh! Or he was an actor in South Pacific, Sergio Bronchi. Sorry about that. I apologize profusely. With an increase in the seriousness of the condition. Let's go random again in our home health emergencies story time, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't even play the story time theme.
No.
It's all right.
I don't even know where you put my phone. I'm concerned about that.
Now, let's do something that I have experienced.
Oh God.
And the irony of all this is one of the things that happens when you have this is something that I have to do. Do you think you could maybe spell me and read to the kind people about food poisoning from bacteria?
No.
Could you?
No.
Okay. This show's going to get tougher and tougher for old Dave to finish here. Contamination of food with disease-causing bacteria, aka germs.
Yeah.
Bacteria are the same as germs?
Germs is a slang. So you could have germs, could be a virus or bacteria, but germs are more bacterial.
No kidding. Yeah. I just learned something. This is what it's all about, children. It's about learning things in story time. So it's a common cause of food poisoning, the contamination of the food. Such germs bring on illness in one of 2 ways, either directly through their own action or indirectly through the effects of poisons which they produce while growing in the food. This type of food poisoning is sometimes incorrectly called ptomaine poisoning.
Why ptomaine?
I've heard of ptomaine, but I thought it was very specific.
Ptomaine is like a color. Ptomaine? I thought ptomaine blue. Tourmaline, I'm confused.
Oh, yeah, no. I think when I go to a Chinese restaurant, I have chicken ptomaine, beef ptomaine.
Don't say that.
Well, that's the kind of poison I am. little comedy here. This is why people tune into this show. Tragic, ain't it? Okay.
Yeah.
What else? Actually, ptomaines are substances produced in the putrefaction of foods. They're abundant in many popular foods like Limburger cheese, for example, but they're harmless in the absence of disease-causing bacteria.
Dun, dun, dun.
Old-fashioned references to ptomaine poisoning should give way to the more accurate term food poisoning, which nobody says ptomaine poisoning anymore,
You
actually.
can be enlightened. David, where's my phone, honey? That's concerning me.
Oh, it's in the other room. It's on the bed. I was trying to make a phone call and couldn't figure out how to work it.
Oh, jeez. I'm going to get it so I can charge it. I'm listening.
In bacterial food poisoning, the character of the illness depends to a large measure on the nature of the contaminating bacteria. The three main types of such bacteria, children, are the staphylococcal.
David, you were trying to call by searching my contacts. If you want to make a call.
How do I make a freaking phone call?
Right here. Phone,
yeah, okay.
And then, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, where? Where do you make a call?
Yeah.
So you have to hit that thing twice.
This is the numbers, right? So close all, phone, and then you just do, and you could call there.
Yeah, well, no, if I'd seen that, I saw that.
That's the phone.
And I didn't see to
and
get the phone there.
You just go here.
Yeah, I had to hit that twice. I didn't know that.
Or you could create a contact and put it in my phone.
Well, but anyway, let's finish up with story time. But thank you for showing me that. Okay, salmonella and botulinus.
Yum.
These are discussed below.
Yum.
By the way, and you know this bear was made by the Line Company, so he might be a botuline bear if you think about it. Don't think about it. Note: all instances of bacterial food poisoning, no matter what the cause, should be reported promptly to public health authorities, so steps can be taken.
Do that. Let me go report myself.
Now, speaking of taking steps, I want to play a little bit more of Jay Leonhart.
Jay
Leonhart, the bass player. So I'm going to find a song by him.
And put the bear.
Quickly, let me see if I can find Lenny and Me, the song that he was talking about, just so I can do something really important that's making me really, really uncomfortable. Oh, please play. Come on, man. I'm sorry, it's called Me and Lenny.
The Battle Angel.
Hold on, I gotta play this. Okay.
It's an eye-popping spectacle. It's the first
It's over already. So now, pick it back up. Here we go. Here's a bit more of Jay Leonhart, and I'll be right back. Pardon me.
Take my seat aboard the plane, and what is this I see? Leonard Bernstein comes aboard and sits right next to me. First class New York to LA, some things just work out right. I'll be sitting next to Leonard Bernstein this whole flight. Maybe I should just act like I do not recognize him. Be real cool and do my best not to antagonize him. Now we're rolling down the runway, next stop is LA. I'm nonchalant like I ride next to a Lenny every day. Naturally, I turn to him against my own advice. Introduce myself and find that Lenny's very nice. Soon we start to chat and drink and talk about our lives. We talk about our children and our wives. What a lovely fellow, what a lucky day. Me and Lenny side by side, New York to LA. Soon we're chatting, drinking, talking like the very best of pals. Talking music, life and art, death and root canals. Now he's interrupting me, but really that's okay. He's a lovely fellow and he's got a lot to say. I recite some poems I wrote, he recites them back. For poetry and music, he seems to have a knack. He tells me that his new show closed and now he's feeling beat. And he's not used to dealing with defeat. But what a lovely fellow, what a lucky day. Me and Lenny side by side, New York to LA. He does the London Times crosswords, 10 minutes and he's through. Does the puzzle with his pen, I do not have a clue. What an intellectual, but a warm and friendly guy. We talk about the world below as we sail through the sky. Finally, I feel the airplane starting to descend, and I know this lovely day is coming to an end. But I trace the seat backs up just like you're supposed to do. Land and bid my friend a fond adieu. But what a lovely fellow, what a lucky day. Me and Lenny side by side, New York to LA. What a lovely fellow, though, really, I must say. I've not heard from Lenny since I left him in LA. Not a blessed word from Lenny since I left him in LA.
Jay Leonhart there with his song Me and Lenny. So you did get to hear Me and Lenny from Jay Leonhart. And as I said, if you missed the actual interview of Rabbi Sal Solomon with Jay Leonhart, you can go listen to it tomorrow at davesgoneby.com or anytime at davesgoneby.com. And also, honestly, Facebook tends to archive all our video shows here. So really, like moments after the show's over, it saves the show. So you can go back from the past year of episodes that we've done and basically watch them right on Facebook. So that's kind of cool too. And it's always nice when maybe 50 or 60 or 70 people watch this show live on Facebook. And then I go on my Facebook page a day or two later, and suddenly the number has jumped to 90 or 100 or 120 people who have watched the show later on, but not live. And that always makes me feel good too. And by the way, folks who have been watching live include Mike and Samuel and David and Jeff and Mary, and we welcome to all of you. It is 11:15 Eastern time here in the Daverhood. I'm sorry for cutting StoryTime down. I literally, we were talking about home health emergencies. I had a home health moment that I just could not get away from. It becomes, speaking of Facebook and speaking of also posting some shows on YouTube, my problem doing the show that I love now is that I can't usually play a lot of music. Facebook hears music and it'll sense copyright going on, and it'll threaten to cut off the stream, or sometimes it will cut off the stream, stop the show, so I have to reboot the thing, and then I'll get a message later on that week saying you've used copyrighted music that you're not allowed to use, and either what's kind of okay and I'm fine with is we're gonna mute that portion of the audio in your show. I'm like, fine, go ahead and do it. When we put it in the archive, if 30 seconds or 45 seconds of a song don't play, fine, okay, it goes mute and then we come back. YouTube is worse. YouTube will block everything. It's a thing. But I used to play a lot more music, and it gave me a chance if I needed to use the facility to leave. Now, thank goodness for being able to play some Jay Leonhart. It's coming extremely handy because I've been allowed to leave and do what I needed to do and get through the rest of the program, which has a couple of more things to do. First of all, let's get to our Saturday segue of songs in the news. Extra, extra, hear all about it. We provide the rhymes, you provide the reasons. It's our Saturday segue of songs in the news. So that's the deal. That's one of the things that we do on the program. And I'm finding a new, different way to do this. Because what we used to do is just play a full song. And the goal of this is kind of a mix of hearing music and a quiz. Only now we have to keep our musical selections kind of short. But we play a song or part of a song. And your job, should you choose to accept it, is to decide, why is Dave playing that this week? What happened in the news? What happened in the world at large? What current event occurred that would make Dave think of this title of a song, or the singer, the band that's doing it, or the theme of the song. So not only do you get to enjoy the small portion of the song, but it's a quiz. It's kind of like, aha, I know why Dave's playing that this week, because so-and-so happened. Are you ready? Let's start with our first one. This is from the American Pie guy, kind of an oddball novelty tune he did that used to hear on Dr. Demento a lot. Here's Don McLean.
Amazon, the prophylactics prowl on the Amazon. The hypodermics howl on the Amazon. You'll hear a scarab scowl and sting. Zodiac's on the wing.
Okay, there's a song. It's actually from that very first album of his, the music that introduced Don McLean to the world, with American Pie and Vincent. This one, not so well known, but a song called On the Amazon from Don McLean. Why would I be playing On the Amazon on Dave's Gone By today, February 16, 2019? Well, especially if you're in New York, you know that Amazon has been a big deal around here. Amazon was going to build a big corporate outlet in Queens and supposedly going to make 25,000 jobs. And in order to attract Amazon to New York, instead of all these other cities that it could pick and choose from, Mayor de Blasio of New York and Governor Cuomo were like, okay, we're going to give Amazon $3 billion. Speaking of saving in taxes, a $3 billion tax break for building in New York, creating jobs, creating a whole new neighborhood and a whole influx of people and an influx of jobs. Well, people from the Queens area where Amazon was going to build got kind of up in arms about it. And they said, oh, you're going to change the nature of the neighborhood. The character is going to yuppify everything, and people won't be able to afford their rents, and it's not good for the people living here, and how we deal with the traffic. And why on earth are you giving the richest, biggest company in the world $3 billion of tax breaks? They should give New York the tax break for being able to work in New York. Well, the naysayers were so strong and so powerful that they put a chill on everything and put the kibosh on Amazon coming here. And at the moment now, the deal has fallen through, and Amazon will not be coming to New York. And now the mayor is enraged, the governor is enraged. Some of the local politicians are unhappy about it. And Republican and some Democratic politicians are like, what do we just do? How do we just turn down having something that New York is specifically for, which is giant businesses? But of course, you also get the Ocasio-Cortezes and those people who are saying, oh, it's a victory for the little man. And if you see the place they were going to put Amazon, it's like a nondescript, semi-urban part of Queens. You can use an Amazon or something. And of course, they're saying, well, we'll get rival companies to come here. What rivals Amazon? Who else packages everything and mails it everywhere? Except so great. So they'll bring the post office because they're in such great financial shape. Anyway, that's why we played Don McLean's On the Amazon on our Saturday Segue of songs in the news. Okay, so you get the idea. You know what this segment is about. Now let's go to our next song. You will certainly know who this person is. I gotta first find it and get into it about a minute in. Here we go.
I came for, and I'm sure you see that too. I came for you, I came for you, but you did not need my urgency. I came for you, I came for you, but your life was one long emergency.
Okay. I had to pop that down just at that moment. I hope that you caught that very last word there. Of course, the singer is Broadway star and rock legend Bruce Springsteen. The song, an early one from him called For You. I came for you, I came for you, but you did not heed my urgency. I came for you because your life was one long emergency. Why is emergency in the news this week? Well, we've apparently averted a budget shutdown again, 3 weeks after our previous longest ever budget shutdown, when Donald Trump reluctantly signed a budget bill that allows $1.3 billion for border security, a wall, whatever you want to call it. Okay, fine. It's what we used to call sort of a compromise. I kind of wish that the Democrats had gone up to even $2 billion and made the man happy and gotten him. What is not a terribly unreasonable thing is to increase some border security in places where it's weak and help our border guards, because it's not wrong to want to know who's coming into the country and who's leaving. I don't think that's such a terrible thing. Do we need an actual physical barrier over hundreds of miles? Not so sure about that. But boy, Donald Trump is sure about that. In fact, he's so sure about it that bucking people even in his own party, let alone the Democrats, he has made good on his threat to declare a national emergency in terms of the immigrants coming over the border from Mexico. They've been doing it for years. It has gone down steadily over the years, and yet suddenly it is a national emergency because a couple of them are in gangs, some of them are bringing drugs, some of them are not nice people. And therefore, now Trump is asking for $8 billion fucking to build this wall. Immediately, the Democrats are threatening, and they've already got lawsuits up. So this is going to play itself out in the courts. They're worried about a constitutional crisis because, okay, you've got a president in power who's supposed to work with both sides, the House, well, Democrats and Republicans, but also the House and the Senate. And, you know, president can declare war. But there's things that, and he can choose with the approval of the Senate, a Supreme Court justice, but otherwise he's supposed to work with and go through the houses of government for stuff that he wants. And so just sort of randomly declaring, well, you're not going to give me the money this way, I'm going to keep my promise and make an end run and get the money another way, in a way that is perhaps subverting the idea of a republic and a democracy. Okay? This is what he's doing, for better or worse. I mean, it's funny that for decades, people have always said, God, you know, politicians say one thing and do the other. They promise, they don't keep their promises. We finally get a president who is desperate to keep his promises, but he does it either for the wrong things, or the wrong reasons, or all the wrong ways. Welcome to America. So that is why we played For You by Bruce Springsteen, because her life was one long emergency. And we're going to see if he gets another $6.5 billion to build his little toy wall across the Mexican border. Interesting times we live in, ladies and gentlemen, rather interesting times. Okay, let's play another song in our Saturday segue of tunes. Let me get back to my iTunes. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Thank you for popping up there. Let's hear another legendary, unmistakable rock artist, although you won't hear his voice. What you will hear is a bit of his guitar in this very early recording. Sorry I couldn't play a little bit more of that. That's actually the first song that you hear, I believe, on the big archive thing that Neil Young did a few years back, where he just took all his early albums, alternate takes, and some unreleased stuff, and did like this 7-box CD set of Neil Young archives, 1963 or 6 until 1974. And hopefully there'll be another set coming out at some point. But that instrumental that he did with an early band, long before Buffalo Springfield, long before CSNY, they did a song instrumental called, as they said, Aurora. Aurora. Why would I play Aurora on this episode of Dave's Gone By? Well, not a happy reason, unfortunately. Yesterday, a gunman entered a company in Aurora, Illinois, not Aurora, Colorado, which is somewhat near where we're from. But Aurora, Illinois, this gunman killed 5 civilians, also wounded 5 police officers. The gunman, thank goodness, was killed by police in the melee, and he was a former employee of the valve company that he walked into and shot up. So, yep, we still, we don't have an emergency with people owning guns and going crazy and killing people and firing them, as in Las Vegas. And no, that's not an emergency. The emergency is people who want to get into this country and work. Go figure. Anyway, that's why we played Aurora by early Neil Young on our Saturday Segue of Songs in the News. Are you ready for our last part of the quiz here? Our last song that we're going to play. I wonder, did I say this one? Oh, I did. Good. Okay, so where do I have to start this one? Almost. Let me get that going. Okay. Why am I playing this?
Though the days are filled with pain, there is no one who explains why I'm coming under friendly fire shots in the fatal cause of rock and roll.
Okay, well, maybe not the rock and roll part there, but okay, the very recognizable sound of the Pet Shop Boys. Pet Shop Boys, why are we playing that song? And it is the title of the song, and he mentioned it in that lyric, in that verse, friendly fire. Friendly fire. Why would I be playing that Pet Shop Boys song? Well, a crazy person named Christopher Ransom, age 27, earlier this week in Brooklyn, held a fake gun to police. Now, this is a crazy guy, so we don't know if he wanted to do suicide by cop or if he just wanted, at one point he wanted to be a police officer a couple of years ago, but he's got a couple of screws loose. So he held up this fake gun in doing a robbery, and the cops fired at him rather wildly. In the melee, he came out alive, but the cops shot one of their own. Instead, because it was a barrage of 42 shots. Once they opened fire, they went for it, and caught in that crossfire was an actual policeman, and I think another police officer was wounded. The only thing I can say about that is, and it's a horrible joke, but somewhere Amadou Diallo is laughing his ass off. But it also does explain something about that ridiculous, terrible tragedy from 2 decades ago, where this unarmed immigrant man was stopped by cops for I guess, looking foreign. He goes for his ID or his wallet or something. They think he's going for the gun. They say gun, and suddenly, what's that other Bruce Springsteen song? Is it 47 shots, 52 shots, something, 41 shots that took him down in the stairwell of a New York City subway, and they just blasted him to bits. Perfectly, completely innocent man who just didn't hear the words freeze or know what to, or just wanted to prove that he was okay and show his papers or something. And people got incredibly infuriated and angry that not only was this innocent unarmed man killed by police, but that it took 47 shots to bring him down. To that as soon as the order was given, he didn't just take a bullet to the head or something, but they riddled this poor guy with bullets. And why was that necessary? And how much excessive force was that? And I guess in some ways, this even should make police feel a little bit better. This is what they do. This is when someone gives the order to fire, you need to bring down whatever's coming at you to protect your own self and to protect your fellow officers. And also the idea being, I guess, that if a cop shoots a suspect, that cop kills the suspect, that cop is going to have to live for the rest of his life or her life, even if it was absolutely 1 zillion% justified. You've just murdered another human being. Okay. Whereas if 5 people shoot at the same person and just unload clip after clip, it's almost impossible to tell not only the kill shot, but which bullet or series of bullets killed him. So 5 different people, and one person can say, well, I know I shot at him, I probably wounded him, but it wasn't me that took the life. it was a combination of all of us, or it was one of the other officers who probably did the actual kill. And it can make them feel better about themselves. It's less of a traumatic thing for the policeman to live with for the rest of his or her life. And so that is why even 20 years after the Giallo shooting, 20-something years, when this happens and it's a cop who goes down in a hail of bullets, they're still doing the hail of bullets thing. And it's for the same exact reasons, and it's really nothing will change. Nothing does change. Why that policeman was not wearing a protective vest, don't know, honestly. That should have been... Now, granted, if there's 42 bullets coming at you, some of them are going to hit your head where you don't have a vest. But still, you would have had a better shot. Hard to say why they didn't at least take that precaution. And so now, at least, probably in a way that they didn't do after the Giallo shooting, the cops will go back and say, well, how do we maybe do this a little better so we don't hit our own with friendly fire, as we heard from the Pet Shop Boys on Dave's Gone By, our Saturday segue of songs in the news. Well, it is a little after 11:30 in the morning Eastern Time here in the Daverhood on this Saturday, February 16th, 2019, our 685th episode. We've been calling it Ace of Base in honor of our guest, Jay Leonhart, who's in the Daverhood. Are we done with the show? I mean, we're 2.5 hours in. Are we complete? Have we done everything? Not quite. Not quite. We still have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned to share with you. And as promised, I also want to bid a farewell to someone in the radio field, someone in the radio game. Some sad news to share if you haven't heard, and some of my own thoughts about that as long as my throat holds up. But before we get to that, I keep mentioning that you can hear archived episodes of Dave's Gone By at davesgoneby.com, including all the wonderful guests like Jay Leonhart that we've had over the years. Well, we also keep track of the guests. We're proud to have had them on the show. They go on and they do other things in their careers, and we like to share them with our listeners. And we call this the Friends of the Daverhood. So yeah, it's just basically a way of keeping tabs on what we call the friends and the family of this program. People who've been on the show, what have they been up to ever since? And here they are. I find my paper with the information. For example, I mentioned this earlier, but I'll tell you again that there's a play that is inspired by the life of Glenn Loney, our late theater critic and educator guest on the program, Glenn Loney, played by Peter B. Hodges, called The Glen, and it's at Shetler Studios, and you have just today to catch the last performance. And then playing just until tomorrow on Broadway, although I think it may have been extended. So don't quote me on this. You may have a little more time actually to catch the play Choir Boy at the Samuel J. Friedman Theater on Broadway, and it features our friend Austin Pendleton. Now, a lot of theater critics, Peter Felicia, musical theater expert Peter Felicia, who was on one of our shows, maybe also one of our Tony shows, he is also a playwright, and he has a comedy called God Shows Up that they're doing at the Playroom Theater on West 46th Street, and that is running now through February 21st. I saw it. It's actually kind of cute, kind of amusing. I'll give it a very mild thumbs up, and certainly a big thumbs up to Peter Felicia, who's one of our reigning experts in musical theater, and thrilled that he's branching out into actually, going out there and having his own plays reviewed and watched and enjoyed. It's a comedy called God Shows Up at the Playroom Theater. There's also a play called Alice by Heart, a musical, in fact, by Duncan Sheik and our friend Stephen Sater, that is on Bond Street. It's Manhattan Class Company producing it, and it just got extended, I think, till the end of March. Alice by heart. Musical that will be closing in early April on Broadway, The Band's Visit, features a score by our friend David Yazbek. Avi Hoffman is out in Florida coordinating Yiddishkeit at the Betsy in South Beach. It's a bunch of panels and play readings and plays. Check it out. It's Avi Hoffman and Yiddishkeit at the Betsy now through mid-May. Going back to Broadway, beautiful, the Carole King musical has a book by Douglas McGrath. Come From Away has book and lyrics and music by Irene Sankoff and David Hine at the Gerald Schoenfeld Theater. To Kill a Mockingbird features a featured performance by Dakin Matthews, our friend that is at the Schubert Theater, and Daniel Breaker is in Hamilton playing Aaron Burr. Danny Burston is playing Alfie Doolittle in My Fair Lady at the Vivian Beaumont Theater. And then moving away from Broadway, Jim Caruso's Cast Party every Monday night at Birdland. Now, of course, Birdland is a place that you're going to see Jay Leonhart on, is it Tuesday night? No, it's next Saturday night. And then also there's a Saturday in March when Jay will be there. Let's see, Leslie Jordan and Vicki Lawrence are in the cast of Fox TV's The Cool Kids on Friday nights. Evan Seplow is the founder and editor of StageBuddy.com. Dr. Demento, still doing Dr. Demento shows at drdemento.com. Charlie Gross and Leslie Hoban Blake are the hosts of Two on the Aisle, a very long-running theater review program on Manhattan Neighborhood Network, where you can also watch Eva Heinemann's show, High Drama, Manhattan Neighborhood Network, mnn.org. Bob Cudmore still doing podcasts of upstate New York history at bobcudmore.com, and a great friend, Mary Shen Barnage, who writes theater reviews from Chicago for both Windy City Times and our beloved TotalTheater.com. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. Okay, it's about 20 to 12 Eastern time here in the Daverhood. Hope you've been having a good time. Hope you've been enjoying the show. The mix of you got to play a bit more music for once than we usually do. We still have a little more to take care of in the program. I want to do, let me save the funny thing for the last. So I'll save our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for the end of the show. But before we get to that, I do want to talk a little bit, somewhat extemporaneously, and get something off my chest, and just give a shout out to some other radio people who may or probably are not listening. But I'm gonna do it anyway. How do I even start this? How do I even tell the whole fairly lengthy story of this? But I will. So, years ago, and I am talking about 20 years ago, I wasn't on the radio, I wasn't doing this program, but I loved radio, and I realized that most radio then and now sucked. I don't have Sirius XM, maybe there are wonderful stations, and those are great, and college stations are good, but corporate radio stations, regular radio stations, most of it sucks. Okay, fine. This has been the truth since the 1950s, really, if you think about it, but okay. But I still love the form. I love the idea of radio, of communicating. And then I found out, just because they did a little news story, a news item about it, that there was a guy at a radio station in New Jersey that was going to do something wild and kind of weird. He was going to try and break the record for the longest time that a DJ would be on the air. In other words, he would do the longest DJ stint ever, because he had found out that the longest one to that point had been about 75 hours. Someone had done 3 straight days of DJ work, not sleeping, just playing music, being on the air. One of those kooky, wacky people, probably did it in the 50s, as a way to bring attention to his show, as a way to do a kooky, wacky stunt on the air and bring attention to the radio station. And this broadcaster guy named Glenn Jones out of New Jersey said, I think I can beat that. Now, he was in his late 30s at the time. I'll prepare for it. I'll really work, and we'll promote it at the radio station. And I'm going to be on there, and I'm going to break that 70-something hour record of being on the radio consecutively, right? I won't sleep. I'll play music. I'll do what I have to do to break this record officially. And not only that, I'm not just going to break it, but I'm going to break it in a big way. I'm going to shoot for 100 straight hours on the air, 4 full days on the air at this radio station. And they're going to videotape it, and we're going to record it, and it'll be live. Everybody can listen. People can't go and there won't be an audience watching, but he as much as he needed to follow Guinness's rules, or else it would be disqualified, he also wanted to make it a little tough and interesting on himself. So all he would have had to do was play records, announce them, and back announce them again and again and again for 100 hours. And he would do it. And you can't cheat. You can't just play like a Mahler symphony, announce it, and then come back an hour and a half later after you slept for an hour and back in. No, they have to be pop songs. And there's rules about these things to make sure that you're awake and to make sure that you're following, the procedures to get into the Book of World Records. But at the same time, Glenn Jones said, I'm going to have guests, so it's interesting for the listeners, and they'll keep me awake, so I can conduct interviews with people. And I'll also have people from the station come by and wish me well during the show. And of course, when I really start falling out and getting really tired, I'll just announce a song, play the song, back announce it, shut up and play another song. And I think that the one thing is that you get maybe a 10-minute break every 4 hours or something like that, or not even like a 5-minute break every couple of hours, just so you can go pee and you can go freshen up and splash water on your head and stay awake, slap yourself, do something. So Glenn Jones did this, and this would have been, it had to be 2000 or 2001, that time, because I was still working my full-time day job back in Queens. So, and I was excited about this. I was telling everybody at where I worked, my God, this guy's doing this, and nobody cared, but I cared, right? And so whenever I could, I would tune in to see how he managed. And the station is WFMU, and I've talked about it a few times on the show. WFMU out in Jersey. And the special thing about the station is that it's not college, and it's not corporate commercial, and it's not an NPR or an APR affiliate. It's its own independent thing. It started as an offshoot of Uppsala College, but then it just became completely independent, lives entirely off donations and funding from people who love the station. And it's devoted to really letting the DJs do what they want to do, okay? And yes, they should be devoted to discovering new music and strange and different music, because it can range from rock and roll to weird electronic stuff, to ambient stuff, to garage rock that's really obscure. They let the DJs do, so long as they're not going to sit there and play horrible crap top 40 that you can hear all over the dial anyway. That's the idea. The only thing I have against WFMU is that for some reason they don't want me and they don't take my calls. Okay, whatever, because I'm more talk than music. And the music that I play would be not particularly out there. I play a lot of deep cuts, gladly, and very eclectic music, but I'm not suddenly discovering unheard of bands that are playing Ludlow Street and are very weird and do 8-minute jams. That's not me. Okay, fine. So I'm listening to Glenn Jones try to break this record on this station. And I'm hooked by his energy. I'm hooked by the very idea of doing something crazy for radio in an era when radio had long been the redheaded stepchild of media by then. Computers were already out by then. Streaming, internet radio stations were out by then. Who cared about radio? He made people care. He made me care about radio again. And by God, he did it. And you can go back on WFMU's website and watch and listen to all 100 hours of Glenn Jones trying to get through and break the record. He broke the record easily. The funny part of it was that he, in the first 10 hours, he started getting sleepy. And he's, I'm not going to be able to do this. I'm falling asleep already. I've only been here 10 hours. And then, but you know how sleep cycles are, where you'll be like, and then 5 minutes later, you're as awake as you ever were. And weirdly enough, that can happen even 30, 40, 50, 60 hours into a no-sleep jag. I mean, taxi drivers, I'm sure, have it. Doctors on call and interns have it, where you think you're going to crash, and even without coffee, your body just ramps itself up with its own amphetamines or something, and it's just, I'm okay, blah, blah, blah. And then a half hour later, you're jello, and then up and down, and your body gets weirder and weirder as this goes on. And of course, in the last like 20 hours, he was gone to the world. They drag him to the chair, they prop him up before the microphone, and say, "The Del Vikings, Sha-la-la-la is the name of the song. I'm Glenn Jones, radio program." We'll pull him away from the microphone, play the song, and then 3 minutes later, they're back announced, "There's the Del Vikings. Here is Bruce." Boom. It was enough. It was just enough for him to stay on the air, to forego sleep for 100 hours, and in the 101st hour, because he made it to almost 101, he woke up a bit again because there was so much tumult and activity and people running in and congratulating him and going, "You did it, man! You did 100 hours on the air." And he said the only thing that got to him after all that time, it wasn't even so much the lack of sleep and the hallucinations a bit that he had, was that his mouth, his tongue was hurting after that time, because your body begins to break down when you don't have sleep. And he said that was the worst of it. And he went home after it was over, and he slept for 8 hours. It wasn't like he suddenly slept for 3 straight days. He got 8 hours of sleep, he woke up again, probably did a lot more catching up in the week ahead. But he was young enough to do it. It was a big thing, and it clued me in. And this is just the preamble to what I really want to talk about, to WFMU as a station, and to Glenn Jones as a radio host and his show. And I became a fan of the show. But the point of the Glenn Jones show was more than just him. He has had a sidekick, or you can even call him a co-host, with the nickname of X-Ray Burns. So it's Jonesy and X-Ray. And the two of them together very often are magic. Okay. Jones, a perfectly good broadcaster, an excellent guy who can put together themed segues as well as anybody. He's got really good taste. He plays a little too much R&B and soul for my taste, but really good taste in rock and roll. And then he's a very capable storyteller on the air, competent broadcaster. He goes into, he's influenced by those DJs of the 50s and 60s. So he does Jonesy, and do silly things on mic and be kind of weirdly, comically up in a way, as I say, I'm an old-time radio DJ person. That's reasonably interesting. But you put him together in that DJ booth with his friend, a guy named Kenny Green, whose nickname is X-Ray Burns, and together the magic happens. They just talk. They talk about their lives. They talk about growing up together because they've been friends since, if not childhood, teenhood, and their lives in New Jersey and the scrapes that they got into. And more recently, they talk a lot about food, about how X-Ray Burns makes a sandwich. And they always quote the honeymooners when there's you put the Taylor ham on the bread and you do this and zip, zip, it is done. And there's just a way that Burns has with a quip or a comeback, or the way he tells jokes about his life, or the way he sometimes goads Glenn Jones, that it's just funny as hell. You'll be listening to them, and sometimes they'll be talking about the same stuff over and over, what they ate last week, how they made the mashed potatoes, the TV shows that they watched. There was an Odd Couple rerun that they were watching, or a Honeymooners rerun, or they'll be talking about life in Asbury Park, New Jersey, just stuff of their lives. And Burns, in real life, is a real estate person, and Jonesy really has given his life to broadcasting, and he's also a DJ, not just a radio DJ, but does DJing for older people's parties, kinds of things, out in Jersey. And they'll talk about that, and they'll just talk to each other and reminisce and get on each other's nerves sometimes. And yet, sometimes they'll have peaks and valleys of stuff, but invariably, at some point during the show, Burns will say so, because he's Jones becomes the straight man And Burns is just that magical guy who says the right thing in the right way, and I just fall on the floor laughing. It's not like Bob and Ray where they do sketches or anything like that. It's just their chemistry together has just been wonderful. And I've been listening to it every Sunday from Eastern time, from noon to 3 on WFMU. And the show always follows the same pattern. Jones plays a full hour of music from 12 until 1, and then he and X-Ray will get on mic for about 45 minutes and do their thing. And that's the gold. That's the best. That's the part. And then they play a little more music. They come back on mic at the 2-hour mark and talk for another half hour or so. And then they close out with some more music. So you have this kinship between them, and it's tremendously fun to listen to. And the beauty of WFMU is before so many other radio stations, not only were they streaming live, where you could listen on Sundays, but if you couldn't be there on a Sunday to listen live, they archive every minute. They archive everything. I've talked before about how I listened to the programming that they had on 9/11. I'm sort of obsessive about that, of trying to listen to radio shows and TV shows of what, because I wasn't in downtown Manhattan, but I lived through 9/11 in Queens and on Long Island, and trying to see how did the broadcasters cope? How did they talk to the audience? What did they say? How did they react when news started, the first playing, then the second playing, then the fear, then the rumors, and what was it like? And it's really amazing to listen to FMU's programming on September 11th, 2001, 2002. September 12th and 13th, and how all the broadcasters were dealing with the aftermath, the death, of telling people where they could give blood or where they could go down and help, right? So I do that. And they were doing, the beautiful thing is they've been archiving shows at that radio station since the late 1990s. And what's marvelous, and one of the reasons that I archive all the Dave's Gone Bys, is that you can go by on my website, davesgoneby.com, and listen to the first show that I did of this, and the 5th show, and the 20th show. You can go back and listen to Jonesy and X-Ray Burns on WFMU from the early aughts, from 2000, and I think even into the 1990s. It's all there. You can go and listen anytime and hear what they were talking about back then, and hear the fun that they were having all the way up through the last couple of weeks, and hear Jonesy and X-Ray Burns, still old friends, still doing what they do. And it's kind of interesting because we all go through this. Jonesy was saying on the air a day or two, or last week or a week or two ago, that one of the interesting things about their friendship was, like most friends, even close friends, you have junctures in that relationship where you're close and really close, and you see each other every week, you go out to eat, you talk on the phone all the time, you go do stuff, and then life happens, marital stuff and work stuff and just life stuff where you get a little tired of each other and you separate, sometimes for months at a time. You stay in touch, and maybe a phone call or a card during the holidays, but you kind of drift. And then at some point, for no reason, you drift back. This happens to all of us. And for Jones, he mentioned quite seriously that one thing that he loved about doing the radio show is that it was a way to force and keep Kenny Green, X-Ray Burns, in his life as a constant. He didn't have to go necessarily to lunch or dinner with him, didn't have to take his girlfriend and X-Ray's wife and go out and do stuff together. But he knew that Sundays they could hang, right? Sunday mornings or Sunday afternoons, they'd be there with each other, reminiscing, being friends again in front of everybody. And that was part of it, part of the reason that he did it. So the bad part is that over the past couple of weeks, they haven't been on the air together. And Jonesy, and as I said, Jonesy is a very talented broadcaster, but without X-Ray, it's not quite the same. And you'd say, well, X-Ray is on assignment. He's not with us this week, and then he would do his show and play his music and tell stories and tell anecdotes of his life. But he'd be like, I tune in. I barely get to listen live, but I go up to the archives at FMU online, and be ready to, okay, Jonesy X-ray Burns while I'm working for the next 3 hours. Let me hear it. And then it'd be, oh, X-ray's not there. Oh, yeah. And I'll usually listen anyway, but it'd be like, it sort of, you know how it is. It's like when you go to Broadway and you're still going to see the show, but the star is out and you've got the understudy. It's probably a great understudy, but it's not, right? So over the past few weeks, X-ray has been out as much as he's been in. And it's been kind of a disappointment. And then they had him on about 3 weeks ago. And he sounded like he had this terrible cold, pretty weak. His voice was a little different. Still the same old X-ray, but he just sounded not so great. And finally, I happen to be Facebook friends with both of these gentlemen, both Jonesy and X-ray Burns. And then they announced this week on Facebook that X-ray Burns had been battling not just a cold, not just flu. He had lung cancer, pretty bad lung cancer, to the point when they're raising money on a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter campaign for $50,000 of medical bills to get him through it, because it's cancer, and he's doing the radiation, he's doing the this and the that. And so they kept it secret for obvious reasons from the listeners to the show over the past bunch of weeks that something really serious was going on. And so this past Sunday, I tuned into the Glenn Jones radio program on FMU, and he plays an hour of music, and it's kind of sad music. Gets on mic at about 1 o'clock, and he says, all right, I'm going to be honest with you. Finally, he hasn't just been sick. Thank you for all the people who've been writing in. Well, we heard you on the air 2 weeks ago, and you should drink more tea with honey, and you need to knock out this stuff in your bronchi, right? And Jonesy says, well, no, it's a lot more than that. He's battling very serious lung cancer. Needs your thoughts, your prayers, etc., and so forth. And then a little later on, he gets on mic again. And he's also talking and telling more stories about his years with X-ray Burns and his memories. And he gets on mic again, and he says, I want to tell you more about what's going on with X-ray, but I don't want to say it on the air yet. If you go to the station's website, if you go to our Facebook pages, you'll get the fuller story. But meanwhile, give him your best, send him your best wishes, pray for him, etc. He's my friend, I love him, and so forth. And then on his third mic break of this show, Jonesy gets on and says, I haven't been able to really tell you the truth. I found out an hour into the show, just before I went on the air, that actually he passed away during the show, and that I lost my friend. And that is the end of the line, as it were, for me and X-ray Burns. I didn't want to say it on the show immediately because there's family members, there's friends who kind of expect a phone call first rather than hearing it on the air or hearing somebody else calling and say, oh my God, I just heard on the air, X-ray's dead. So, and it's just, it's a powerful moment like that. And it brings me back to a time, one of the amazing moments of radio listening that I ever had, when another friend of the Daverhood, the opera fanatic, Stefan Zucker, who used to do a show on Columbia's WKCR, their radio station, he used to do a late night Saturday show called Opera Fanatic. And if you want to hear my interview with Stefan Zucker, go into the Dave's Gone By archives, because that's a voice that one time you hear it, you never forget it. But he did a show rather unwisely a couple of days after his mother died. And he was really close with his mother. I used to tour with her because she was a singer, and he accompanied her, and he was an opera fanatic and knew about, not coloratura, what's the word? And not da capo. I'm forgetting. It's a certain kind of singing. I'm forgetting. But anyway, he was distraught. He was incredibly sad and depressed. But he went on the air anyway to play opera, and then to do a tragic opera, and then to sort of, first he said he didn't want to dwell on the death of his mother, but then he would dwell on the death of his mother. He had no business being on the radio, which of course made it fantastic radio. And then I wish I had that recording. It's horrible to be fascinated by, and to dwell on someone else's grief and misery. But there is a certain incredibly fascinating, compulsive element to it. So the Stefan Zucker episode, that had it in spades, and that's probably lost to history. I don't know if anybody recorded that. But this is the first time that that's really, I've come across it again, where literally in the midst of the program, a live program, the announcer, the DJ, has to announce, wow, someone that we all know and love and hold dear, someone who's been with me on this program for 20 years, someone who's been in my life for 40 plus years, has literally just died. And I don't know if it's to his credit or not, but Jones held it together and told himself, so, Jonesy, hold it together. Don't lose it. Don't lose it on the air. And he didn't. He, the sadist in me kind of wanted him to lose it. It's like when Barbara Walters wants to make her interviewee cry, right? Or when you see these reality TV shows and they lose it. That's the most interesting thing. That's what you wait for, right? Josie didn't. You could tell he was choked up. You could tell he was upset. You could tell that it was a tough day for him, and it made for fascinating radio listening. But he didn't quite lose it. But anyway, so I want to give out my best wishes, first of all, to Glenn Jones, who I met a couple of times at the theater over the years. I certainly want to give my best wishes to Kenny Green's family, and to wish them the best, and really to wonder, what Glenn Jones's show is going to be like tomorrow, because I assume he's not going to take the week off. The funeral, I think, was Thursday. I assume he's not. I assume he'll feel compelled, just as he was last Sunday, to be on the air and to openly share more stories and grief. Maybe he'll have Kenny's brother on the show. But it's a sad day. I'm going to miss that show. I'm going to miss their camaraderie. I'm going to miss what they did together. Because you think of the teams, the Bob and Ray, the Howard and Robin. That's what Glenn and X-Ray have been to me for many, many years. So a big, big farewell to X-Ray Burns, to Ken Green, and best wishes to plow on and go forward to Glenn Jones. I will be listening tomorrow, and I probably will be listening for months and years down the road. But I think we both know it won't be the same. Anyway, it's 12:05 in the afternoon, Mountain Time, here in New York. I keep wanting to say Greeley, Colorado, but no, it's Eastern Time. It's 12 o'clock. It's a little bit afternoon. You've been watching the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. It's been our 685th episode of the show. We've been calling it the Ace of Base in honor of our guest, Jay Leonhart. Are we done? Almost. Almost. But I'm not going to go out on such a downer. I don't want to go on, just talking about grief and death and all that. Let's do something ridiculously, pointlessly fun. Our Colorado Limerick of the Damned.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Oh, yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Switching gears completely here. And since we have been living in Colorado for the past 10 years, one of the things I started doing a few months ago was, out of the blue, started thinking of little poems, little 5-line poems called limericks, you know what those are, that are devoted, each one, to individual towns and cities and places and provinces in Colorado. So we've done places like Boulder and Broomfield and Estes was last week. So today's Colorado Limerick of the Damned is going to be devoted to a place that's actually quite close to where we were, Greeley, Colorado. No, we're not up to Greeley yet. We're still on the E's. Evans, Colorado, Well, let me tell you a little bit about Evans, which is the town right next to Greeley. It's actually in walking distance. Evans is a city in Weld County whose population actually doubled from 2000 to 2010. It went from about 10,000 residents to 20,000 in just that time. Now, legend has it, when Evans was first founded next to Greeley, the county records were stolen by night riders from Greeley, who also burned the courthouse down, including all the county seat documents. And the town was incorporated in 1885. So Greeley, not quite, as we heard earlier in Greeley Crimes at Old Times, Greeley wasn't always the friendliest, best, nicest people there. But okay, we're not talking about Greeley now, we're talking about Evans, and it's time for our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, a poem about Evans, Colorado. And believe it or not, this one isn't filthy, dirty, sexual at all, like most of them are. This one, you can actually leave the kids in the room. Here we go. A crazy musician from Evans was singing a song to the heavens. He started off tender, but then grabbed his fender and cranked all his amps to 11s. Yeah, wasn't that worth waiting for? That was our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, ladies and gentlemen, in honor of Evans. And what I love about doing radio is the serendipity of it, the unexpected serendipity. For example, that Jay Leonhart made a joke during our conversation earlier, or his conversation with Rabbi Saul Solomon about turning amps to 11. And we had this poem, this limerick, selected weeks ago to do on the show. So it's just one of those things. There's nothing quite like radio or Facebookio or this program, Dave's Gone By, which I need to plug in again, because we just had a little issue with our ta-da, there we go. That'll get us back. I'm sorry, folks. Anyway, back, our stream is kind of rolling a little bit, which is okay, because the show is basically over. It just remains for me to thank some people. It remains for me to thank my darling and wonderful and adorable wife, Joyce, for joining me for the first part of the show and also taking care of my family crises while I was trying to do the show, and also bringing me a delicious and nutritious beverage. Thank you so much, my love. And also, thank you, big thank you, huge thank you to Jay Leonhart, the fabulous bassist. Let me tell you again where you can go see him. He's going to be at Mesro on this Tuesday night, February 19th. Mesro is at 163 West 10th Street in Manhattan. Or if you missed that, catch him at Birdland this coming Saturday, February 23rd. Jay Leonhart and I believe the trio at Birdland. And on March 13th, Wednesday night, he will be part of Ari Melber's In Your Face, New York. Actually, the show has been going on for a while. Ari Melber is hosting this one. It's at Merkin Hall on West 67th Street. For more information, go to kaufmanmusiccenter.org. And then find out much more about Jay Leonhart at jayleonhart.com. JLeonhart.com. Find out more about this program at davesgoneby.com. Find out more about Rabbi Saul at shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T, shalomdammit.com. You can email me, davesgoneby@aol.com, and you can, what else can you do? That's about it. Check my Twitter, Radio Dave 2, and of course invite people to watch the archives of the show at davesgoneby.com or right here on our Facebook page, Radio Dave Lefkowitz. Please do feel free. I love getting the thumbs up and the messages during the show, but you can message me all week long with your thoughts, your comments, your reviews, your suggestions. I love to hear them all. So it's davesgoneby.com and our Facebook page, Radio Dave Lefkowitz. Thank you so much for joining us in the Daverhood on this Saturday, February 16th. So I'm going to go out with what else? A little bit more Jay Leonhart music. Nobody else but him from his album Cool, because he certainly is way cool the way he plays that bass. Have a great one. Have a fine week. And, what else can I say about it? Nobody else but me would do this program and Gone By. Everybody snap. Yeah, can't really. I'll snap for him. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you from our dog, Oofty Goof, by the way, as well. Remember to catch the archives at davesgoneby.com. Remember to have a fine and fabulous week, and I'll see you, God willing, next Saturday, my dad's birthday, February 23rd, for a new episode of Dave's Gone By, right here, 9 until 11-ish, 11 plus, let's call it, here in the Daverhood. Have a great one and gone by.